Guerrilla cricket. Whoa. Guerrilla cricket. Whoa. Guerrilla. Take large, man the barricades, patrol the cover boundary. At last the time has come, this is a cricketing emergency. Hear this call to arms for every cricket revolutionary. Take up your bats and stumps for the test match insurgency. At first they tried to silence us, but we would not be silenced. They threatened us with lies, so we threatened them with violence. Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket. It's not about the winning, it's about how many rules you break. Even in cricket commentary, this is the best advice to take. Pick guerrilla cricket, it's the finest choice you'll ever make. There's so much more to cricket than rev counters and a slice of cake. At first they tried to sanitize us and clean up our act, but people like it filthy, and we know that for a fact. Fidel Castro, Lenny Pasco, Carlos the Jackal, Umar Akmal, Mahatma Gandhi, Grant and Andy, Brendan Behan, Austin Ian, guerrilla cricket. Stick with us, cause you know we're not the kind of thing that you see on the TV and the radio. So vive la revolution. First they tried to buy us, but we would not be bought. Okay, we were, but then we ran away, and we will not be caught. We would not give up the ghost when they left us all for dead. They decapitated us, but we just grew another head. Chairman Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Václav Havel, Graham Saville, No Surrender, Percy Fender, Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket.
A funny little day of Test cricket with a bizarre passage of occasional spin-in fading light ended with Pakistan very much on top. Babar Azam looked imperious, Shan Masood looked much improved, and with England needing to find a wicketkeeper who can stand up to the slow bowlers, 139 for 2 looks a good foundation to build on. Good morning, good afternoon, good dawn, good dusk, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Guerrilla Cricket. I'm Gorilla Hendo, Nigel Henderson, and day 2 is on the horizon, a near horizon. We're nearly there. The clock is nearly ticking round to the top of the hour, and we will have cricket for you. There's no rain there at the moment, and we're hoping for a precipitation-free day. Alongside me this morning to tweet and social media and Facebook and Crick Tracker and Hot Mic is John O'Gordon. Morning, John. And of course, he shouldn't be underestimated. He's going to be doing a bit of summarising, I suppose. It's going to be not Fred Titmus. Morning, Fred.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Now, what do we think? There was ranting and raving. There's been ranting and raving this morning before we went on air. Well, we've got to talk about him. What are we going to do about the universe, Joss? He's let Shan Masood off twice. And if as a spinner, you can't rely on your wicketkeeper standing up to take at least one of those chances, you don't have much confidence, are you, really?
Well, at the risk of repeating my rant of yesterday afternoon, Butler needs to be dropped. And I think everybody knows that except for Ed Smith. And unfortunately, Ed Smith is the only person who has the power to make that decision, and he shows no interest in doing so. I'd like to say he should return to Lancashire and concentrate on his first-class game, but he doesn't actually play. He's played about half a dozen games for them in 7 years. So, I mean, it's even more bizarre that you've got specialist one-day and test squads at the moment, and he is so patently, obviously in the wrong squad, in the wrong bubble. I don't know how many more times we can say it. He just needs to be replaced.
Do you think they just need to roll his bubble in the direction of Southampton for now?
Yeah, those giant bubbles that you just
Yes.
tip it. I mean, it's all downhill from Manchester to Southampton. Look at the map.
I think so.
He can just roll all the way down.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, interesting though, England's bowling in the second session wasn't really up to scratch. A nice piece, I think, in some ways, by George DeBell this morning in defence of Jimmy Anderson, and talking about a 3-over spell that went for 16, as if that was possibly the worst thing that had ever happened to a class bowler. And adding to the point that when you're of the age of 38 and you have just a perhaps slip beneath the high standards that you've set yourself, that of course everyone starts thinking, is it the end? Is it the end, Jono? Is it the end for Jimmy?
Absolutely not. I think you'd expect him to go in for another couple of years. Yeah, I think just I was talking to Knuckle just before we came on air and saying, you're always a better player when you're out of the side, aren't you? I mean, Broad obviously came back and proved that he should never have been dropped in the first series, in the first test of the West Indies series. But Ben Folkes will be sat there thinking, I'd have taken that catch, I'd have taken that stumping, and it's weird with the Joss situation that Ed Smith seems to love him beyond any kind of realm of sense, and so we'll continue to pick him. But I can't see Joss being dropped, regardless of whether he should be or not. He seems to be a firm favourite of Ed Smith, and unfortunately, I think Ben Folkes is the better option. But I think we'll be stuck with Josh for certainly this 3-test series.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I suppose if he goes out there and gets a 50 again, that will be forgotten to a certain extent.
Well, no, it won't,
because it shouldn't be forgotten, should it?
I mean, he got a 50 in the last Test match, and to be honest, if he was averaging 45, we could have this discussion. But he's averaging half that. So, what is even the discussion?
Well, I think he's averaging a little bit more than that. He's averaging about.
Well, in the last 18 months, he's averaging about 23. So, on current form, he would probably score fewer runs per Test match than Folkes as well. I don't see anyone standing up for Butler. Other than Ed Smith.
Yeah, okay. Standing up being the operative word. The players are out there. Babar Azam is ready for action. Joe Root is ready for action. And we're going to jingle up one or two people.
Babar Azam, have you any wool? No, sir.
He doesn't, because he's a cricketer from Pakistan and he's a really good one. Thank you very much.
Jimmy was a local boy, but he see much more in the change in the weather. Sitting in a uniform of a three-piece suit and the ribbons from his past.
Sean Masood was born in Detroit in October 1989. Less than a year later, Saddam Hussein invaded. Coincidence? Yeah, you keep telling yourself loud.
Right, 139 for 2. We're ready to go. It's going to be Jimmy Anderson, who does have rather unfavourable figures for him. You expect him maybe to go wicketless occasionally, but you don't expect him to concede 4 and over. And his figures at the moment are 8 overs, 2 maidens, none for 32. Anyway, Joe Root has kept the faith. He's got 2 slips and a fairly fine gully, a man at mid-wicket, a man at backward point. I'll bring you the rest of the field as it reveals itself, as Anderson is in for this first ball of the morning to Babar Azam, and he finds an edge, does he? Or did he just go past the outside edge and hit the back thigh? The ball runs out towards gully and there is no run. Good morning if you're listening to us also on Hot Mic, on Crick Tracker, on YouTube. It's wonderful to have you along, and we will be aiming to get to the odd comment from you as well throughout the day.
At the moment, we've been joined by Paul Truman, who says, morning guys on Hot Mic. Oliver Shelton says something similar. Farong from Dakar, and Nick from Japan. So we're covering many continents.
Excellent. 3 in the ring on the offside, 2 on the on. In comes Anderson, bowls to Babar Azam. He gets in behind it. He wants a run after just dropping it down square on the offside. Dominic Sibley comes chasing in, and there was a little bit of hesitation there. They did run their singles pretty well yesterday to keep the score ticking over when there weren't boundaries on offer or anything more significant, but that seems a little bit skittish from Bavar this morning. Any tweets?
Yeah, the thing about Jimmy, I don't think he's going to be dropped, and that'll be the end of his career. I think what will end his career is that he'll have an injury and then he'll never get picked again.
Anderson into Baba Azam just outside the line of off stump. He waits for this one and then drops it down into the turf. It bounces out towards Gully, and there is no run. We have news on the session times today, and also the fact that Anderson is no longer bowling from his own end. He's now looking at his own end and bowling from the Statham end. The first session will be, as per usual, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Lunch will be 1 to 1:40. The second session is going to be extended by 15 minutes, 1:40 to 3:55. And then the third session will be 4:15 to 6:30, probably with an extra half hour if need be, and if the light allows. So that is everything you need to know about when to be tuned in. In comes Anderson outside the off stump. Fuller delivery, left alone by Baba, and there is no run. The GPL is open. You can go to our website, guerrillacricket.com/competitions. Estimate how many runs you think will be scored in the day. Put your money where your mouth is. That is £1 per guess. And if you get it on the nose, and the pot starts before anyone's put anything extra into it at 40 pounds. Please get onto the GPL. It helps us survive. Very things help us survive, like beer, but also Anderson in, bowls Fuller, and defended on the front foot into the onside, and there is no run. Any tweets?
Mutley's with us. Woof, got a couple of bitches round mine to hang out for the day and listen to the cricket with me. Well, one of them at least, the Jack Russell's deaf. Love and sausages.
So do you talk to the Jack Russell? Do you convey our commentary in sign language after we've said what we've said? Or does he just look on Facebook and read the words? Because he can now see the words of what we say. He can now see what we say as well as hear it on Facebook. It's extraordinary. What more could you need? In comes Anderson to complete the over. Bowls. Fuller's got the edge and he's got the wicket. It's been taken in the breadbasket by Joe Root, and that is an exceptional start for England. It's an exceptional answer to all the critics from Jimmy Anderson, and Pakistan are 139 for 3. Oh dear,
who was writing off Jimmy Anderson?
Exactly.
I mean, who was?
No
Barbar's packed his trunk and headed back to the pavilion.
Very good.
As I was saying about Jimmy, I don't think. I think he's entitled. I'm not in favour of these grand Alistair Cook type send-offs, but if anybody is ever entitled to it, I think Jimmy it would be. But I can't see that happening. I think he's going to pull a muscle somewhere. It might even be on tour. He might injure himself. It might turn, from a 2-week absence to a 2-month absence, and then we're just never going to see him again, which would be disappointing for him. But nothing takes away the record.
Do you think it'll be just one muscle, or do you think several will go at the same time?
Well, Hendo, people of our age know that these things tend to, they multiply rather than.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's
better.
Yes, because if you get a strain in one part of the body, you emphasise or you over elaborate in another part of the body, and before you know it, you're done and dusted.
Even though he is fitter than the pair of us, I think.
I suppose he probably is. Anyway, out to the middle. Won't be facing, because that was the last ball of the over, is Asad Shafiq. It will be, however, this man to bowl.
Couldn't bear a kipper there, I think.
Wake up, Bear. Stop doing your betting. Get on the jingles.
Got the best headband
I was about to play the fantastic Asad Shafiq jingle.
Got the best headband around. Your ego ain't gonna be kept down. Got the best headband around. Even though your hair is thinning now.
Well, it remains to be seen what that early wicket, what effect that maybe has on Shan Masood, who hasn't faced a ball yet. 2 slips of gully, backward point, extra cover, mid-off, mid-on, square leg and a long leg, which, as I say, is the default field for every test opening morning these days. And it's the left-handed Shan Masood, who's got quite a lot of credit overnight, although he should have been out twice. Broad is into him, outside the off stump. It doesn't come back anything like enough, and he just lets that one go through to the keeper. And I wonder, Jono, what do you think about this? I mean, there's a lot of praise for Shan Masood, and he did bat well in that first session yesterday, especially.
Yeah.
And to see off the new ball to a certain extent. But he was missed a couple of times, and it was a real rush of blood, that potential stumping, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think had that stumping have been taken, I think he'd have walked up to the dressing room with his tail between his legs, and a lot of the other lads in that dressing room would have been very unhappy with it.
Broad again, hits him on the pad, that's worth a shout as well! Has that been given? No! Richard Illingworth just shakes the head very slightly, and Broad looks back towards Root. I would be inclined to review that.
Yeah,
I think
be a bit high, I thought.
No, they are going to review. I think that's a goodish shout, and I'm not surprised that Root has decided, because this would be an amazing double breakthrough, wouldn't it? If they can get rid of both the overnight batsmen within 8 balls of the start. Anyway, let's have a look at it. He's round the wicket. It does just strain a little bit height. It's hitting the knee roll.
He smashed it. Has
he smashed that?
Yeah, he smashed it. It's a massive edge.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's got an inside edge. So that, unfortunately, means that it wasn't a good review. And I blame Joe Root for that, because, let's face it, if you can't hear an edge when you're out there in the middle, how can you expect commentators who have no sound to
With
do
no
so?
crowd. I mean, after the area, when there's like 40,000 people there, but then there's not a noise anywhere, and they've still not been able to hear it. I mean, it's more forgivable if there's a crowd making a load of guffaw, but
Yes. I mean, I must admit, I didn't pick it up on sight at all, and I thought it was pretty straight. Be interesting to see what it would have gone on and done, but I suppose because it's got the deflection of the edge, it makes no bones. Anyway, is not out. Good decision from Richard Illingworth. A lot of criticism of the umpires, because they're English, but certainly in the West Indies series. But I actually think they've done a pretty darn good job.
Michael Goff's incredible. I think he had
Yes.
19 challenge decisions and only one was overturned. But
Yeah.
I think he'll very quickly become the best umpire in the world, I'd imagine. I think he's got
Yes.
great.
Absolutely. We're looking at that edge again.
A couple more hellos from Hot Mike. Oliver Shelton tells us
After this ball is driven through mid-wicket by Shan Masood. Going to get his first runs of the morning, Pakistan's first runs of the morning. It's going to be 2 of them to within about 15 yards of the boundary at mid-wicket. And Pakistan moved to 141 for 3. Sorry, Fred.
Oliver Shelton says he's listening from Cairo. And Kieran Donahue says good day from Melbourne. So we are getting round the world on Hot Mic, which is available on iOS and Android.
I'm just wondering if you are in Melbourne, how is the lockdown, and how is it affecting you, and does that make you more likely to listen to cricket commentary? Because I'm all for lockdowns if they make people listen to our cricket commentary.
And send us money.
And send us money as well. That's always a given, isn't it? Really. I'll tell you about how to send us money at the end of this over. We're into the 51st over of the innings. Broad is into Masood. Masood goes onto the back foot, too short, chops that away. That might be his 50. Oh, he's going to come back for it. Although there seemed to be some hesitation from Asad Shafiq, but he was not the man running to any danger area. And Shan Masood is back, and that is his 7th Test 50 to go with 300s.
50 runs. Well done, well done, well done, well done. 50 runs. Your 50 runs. The job is only just begun.
So he celebrates with his bat, raising the bat, as this series is known as. He does exactly that. The next ball arrows in towards his off stump, but it's comfortable to be left enough. And of course, a reminder that you can tip us on Hot Mic. You can actually tip us. You can imagine that we are your virtual Uber driver, your Just Go Eat deliverer. Because let's face it, you're not going out to eat at the moment. Let's face it, you're not going out to eat. So why not tip us? And I'll tell you how you can do that. Broad is in again. Bowls to Masood. Masood down on a straight ball, defends it up to mid-on, and there is no run. Yes, because imagine if you were going out for a big birthday bash with, I don't know, 20 people. and you were going to a really expensive restaurant, 10% of that bill is going to be somewhere around 100 quid, isn't it? It's going to be around 100 quid. So if you just fancy, you think that we've done a really, really good job of serving you in a virtual sense with cricket, and it has satiated your hunger. Please give us 100 quid in the tip. That would be nice, wouldn't it? That would be really
Honestly,
nice.
Hendo, where do you go to eat? With how many friends do you spend 1,000 quid? That 100 quid is 10%.
Well, I think a lot of people do if they go for a big bash, don't they? I mean, I don't. I mean, I barely go out. I barely crawl out the door.
The Costa Coffee. Yeah.
Well, my Costa Coffee's been shut for months, and it's still not showing any signs of opening. I'm having to do with instant, would you believe? In comes Anderson, bowls to Asad Shafiq. We should jingle him up in a minute. He's got to run immediately down to long leg. He's going to come back for the second because it's gone quite fine. Do you want to jingle the superb Asad Shafiq?
Heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart beats so that I can hardly speak, and I seem to find the happiness I see when the next man is Asad Shafiq.
The next man is Asad Shafiq, and he's off the mark immediately with that couple down to long leg. He's been a very consistent performer, Asad Shafiq. He's, I suppose, one of the main names on the team sheet pretty much regularly. In comes Anderson again, bowls to Shafiq, and Shafiq is forward, watchful defence, meeting the ball nicely and punching it to extra cover. There is no run. So what do you think there, guys? How much would you expect people to tip us on a daily basis?
100 minimum.
I think so. I think it's fair enough. I mean, imagine also that you're a very famous movie star and you've just got money to burn, and you just flick down a $50 note on our table as if it's nothing. We're quite happy to take it. Sorry, I'll come back to that. Anderson in again to Shafiq. A little bit of away movement. Foolish delivery. Leaves it alone. Sorry, John. I talked over you.
I'm sure Mick Jagger's one of our regular listeners. He's got a few quid knocking about. He can, give to a few starving journos like us.
Yeah, I know. You'd think so, wouldn't you? Elton John. Elton John is a big cricket fan. He's out there somewhere. Someone get in touch with Elton John and ask him if he'd like to tip us. Imagine that he's had a really extravagant boozy night. Because that could be really lucrative.
I don't think he does that anymore.
Does he not? Oh, what a shame. Anderson is in again, bowls to Shafiq. It's full, and he meets that nicely, drives it without really much of a follow-through. It's going to go all the way to the cover boundary, despite the chase of Dominic Bess, and Shafiq looks in that pretty good touch.
It's me, Sanshi. It's me, Sanshi.
I do believe that Mick Jagger once did finance commentary. Something in the back of my mind about there was a commentary of a tour somewhere which Mick Jagger put up the money for. So if you're listening, Mick or Keith,
I think we've used our contacts to get to Mick, but we've obviously not got them to say the right things because.
We have a lot of celebrity listeners. Surely we have a lot of celebrity. Tim Rice has listened to us in the past.
He's listened to us in the bath, no less.
Yeah. BBC commentator Dan Norcross says he listens to us regularly.
Does he
so
really?
A lot of great men from entertainment.
Does Dan Norcross listen to us even when he's on air? I can imagine he might. 3 slips in the gully. I suppose he wants some tips, doesn't he, really? Anderson into Shafiq. Oh, a good ball. It jabs away. Off the seam, but he plays it late and he plays it well, and he plays it to backward point where Bess is involved again, and there is
some more listeners on Hot Mic from tropical locations.
Oh, excellent.
John Howell is in Myrtle Beach, which is South Carolina, I think.
Okay.
And Hombre Nuevo is from tropical New Malden. So hello to you.
Yeah, now listen, Hombre Nuevo, can you do something about the house prices in New Malden? Because I'd quite fancy moving there. But they've got too expensive again. I was hoping they would be a little bit cheaper than where I live at the moment. He tries to leave that one, does Shafiq. Doesn't get his bat out of the way quickly enough. And it goes quickly to Dominic Sibley, I think, diving away at slip. He does a good piece of fielding. And that is the end of the over. Pakistan have moved on to 149 for 3. Shan has 50. Asad Shafiq has 6. More tweets.
Armchair Cricket Podcast. Crucial first hour for England. Pakistan will be happy to ride it out with not a lot of runs scored. Wondering how crucial Masood's missed stumping off Best will prove today. Obviously, that was sent in before nicking off Babar Azam this morning. Ravina, England were more than a bit shit at fielding yesterday, weren't they? Going to lose the first of the series again, methinks. Mog's with it. Morning, Mog.
It's got that feeling about it, hasn't it? England not being very good in the first Test match. It's strange. You seem to notice it. Broad starts new over to the left-handed Shah Masood from round the wicket. He fires this one wide of the off stump, and it's taken by Butler. I've just seen a tweet. I mean, I'm not monitoring the tweets to see how close you are to keeping up, Jono, but I just happened to see that Tired Grace, that spinner Grace, has written, "Oh my God, Warne, shut up." And also, Dan Liebker says, "What the genuine fuck is Warne talking about? I'd rather even go back to musings about pizza toppings." Well, you know what to do, people. Don't listen to it. We don't talk about pizza. We just talk about being tipped for hours of work. Yeah, we do sometimes. Defended a fuller ball this time by Broad. Back to the bowler it goes, and there is no run. So, someone out there, tell me what the genuine fuck is Warne talking about. I'd like to know, because that sounds like fun.
I could ask the same question to my wife, who's obviously woken up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. She's a big fan of Joss. Guerrilla cricket, when you slag off Joss Butler, a puppy dies.
Well, there are too many puppies in the world anyway. In comes Broad, bowls full again. This is nicely stroked by Shah Masood. Lovely timing, but he won't get a run as the ball runs up to mid-off. Mick Jagger apparently financed Cricinfo at one point, so they could do audio coverage of a 4-team ODI series in Sharjah in 1997. And it was a tournament in the 90s, and remarkably, apparently, England won it. But who remembers it? Who remembers the 19 quadrangular tournament between England, India, Pakistan and West Indies? Exactly. Apart from, of course, our man in the green room, Knackle. Driven beautifully and well stopped, a flying figure of Dominic Sibley, who is absolutely transformed in his new sylph-like gait, and does particularly well to haul that one down as it bounced up. Yes, he's done a couple of good stops already this morning, Sibley.
Bear, a couple of listeners saying that we're not coming through properly on tune-in. I don't know if that's something that you can have a...
That's a while ago, Jono.
I know, I'm still catching up.
Broad again into Masood. He's in behind this one, straight but back of a length, and the ball rolls past Broad. It allows his mid-off to do the fielding for him. I'm told we're all good on all platforms. That's what I've been told. So if that was a long time ago, it looks like any problem has righted itself.
Colin Rosenthal asks, if the third umpire can't tell that if there's an inside edge, does it go back to the standing umpire? And it would indeed, yes.
Okay, Broad strides in, ball to Masood. Masood is forward, he gets a bit tangled up, the ball sort of ricochets between bat and pad and then drops out on the onside. And there is no run.
So the on-field decision will stand unless there is proper evidence with which to overturn it. So if the third umpire cannot tell, it would stay with the on-field umpire's decision.
Is that just not a complicated way of saying the benefit of the doubt goes to the umpire, goes to the batsman?
Yes.
Which is what we played with for many a year, and we were quite happy.
Never stopped you complaining about umpire decisions, Hender?
Oh no, absolutely. It was one of my favourite hobbies.
Because you were a batsman.
I was a batsman, and they were absolutely inept. I mean, LBWs. The amount of ridiculous LBWs I've suffered in my career as the bear gives me the middle finger from the green room. Typical left arm spinner. In comes Anderson, bowls to Shafiq. He wants a quick single, and hang on, there's hesitation. He stopped, and then Shah Masood suddenly came, and then he stopped and went back. They could get themselves into a little bit of trouble with this attempt at clever running. I think they need to have a little chat in mid-pitch about it, and they are going to.
How I wasn't giving out LBW last week, I was ready to walk off myself before the umpire, for some reason, giving it out. The slips and keeper just laughed. The bowler smiled at me.
Was that the umpire that got in touch with us to tell us that he'd been umpiring you?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't hear that.
Oh yes, someone got in touch, said I've been umpiring Jono today for the first time. He was talking about guerrilla cricket. This is defended into the onside, and there is no run. I don't know whether he's come back at all, or whether he liked us and gave us another go. I have no idea.
That might have been the guy from Dulwich I was talking to after the game.
Ah, right. Spreading the word, in the good word. Absolutely, the gospel of gorilla. 149 for 3 is the score. Shan Masood has exactly 50. Asad Shafiq, who is facing, has 6 from 8 balls. And Anderson is into his 11th over. He's into Shafiq. He bowls. Oh, and he has a little prod at that. A little bit of away movement, a bit of nip. And encouraging for Anderson, who's looked much more on the ball. He's been stung by overnight criticism. And he's showing that there's plenty in the tank for the Burnley. What is he known as? The Burnley Express, isn't it?
Burnley Lara, isn't he?
Oh, the Burnley Lara as well. Well, there is that. Yeah, he's known as the Burnley everything, really. Anyway.
Congrats says, I would tip you guys, but I always have a smidgen of suspicion that you've spat in my food. However, if it was Tony Bishop, I'd double the tip.
Well, Tony won't be on today, I'm afraid to say. Grits and Grats. This is defended to backward point. He's having a well-earned rest after all his efforts of yesterday. He'll be back on Friday, and he'll have a fantastic lunchtime interview for you on Friday, which is I forget the name of the writer, but it's with the guy who wrote the book about it's Ashley Gray, is it?
Yeah.
Who wrote the book about the West Indies players who went to South Africa, I believe. That's what it's all about. 149 for 3. I might have to turn my mute on.
Too late.
Defended to the offside. They're going through with a quick single. This always happens when you sneeze on air, and Asad Shafiq makes it nonetheless. There was a bit of delay in trying to mute myself, and I'm afraid I apologise if I frightened or woke anyone up around the world with that particular expulsion.
Imagine, Sally, I presume she's in Australia, says, I'm not sure if this was mentioned yesterday, but the Cricket Australia website has a free live stream of this match. If you're watching, then listen to the Guerrilla Cricket commentary. You'll never listen to mainstream coverage again.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much, Imagine. That really is a nice tweet to be able to read out on this morning. 150 up for Pakistan, 150 for 3. Assad moves on to 7. Shan has 50, and Jimmy Anderson has 1 ball at his bunny, or his previous bunny. What can the bunny do? Is he in the headlights? No, it's outside the off stump. Leaves it alone. Rising ball through to Joss Butler, and that is the end of the over. Let's have some more social media.
Leah Wicket Witch says, anyone claiming to remember any Sharjah game except Desert Storm is lying. Dave Wood says, I have very hazy memories of the 90s in general. My liver took something of a battering during that
Ooh, yeah, I hope it's recovering.
Jay Grover, I'm off the pot today, so you'll be receiving less intoxicated gibberish than usual. Well, lucky for me. I'm sure you're all devastated. Have a good one, Oaks.
Yes, indeed. A reasonable start for England this morning. Despite that dismissal of Babar Azam, I'm not really getting the impression that the ball is doing a great deal. Just the odd one, perhaps seaming a little bit, and they're bowling quite tightly, but it's certainly not hooping round corners or anything like that. Of course, this ball is 54 overs old. Chris Wokes just come in and put some sawdust down on the point at which Stuart Broad will land as he delivers, and Jimmy Anderson is there with the headbanded one. He's dispensed with the headband as Anderson. He's just got a good old-fashioned England cap. How wonderful it is to see. 3
he's had a haircut since
right.
The headband test.
That's no reason to dispense with your headband. Anyway, here comes Broad into Asad Shafiq, full ball. He comes forward and presses this one up to mid-off, and there is no run.
Nestler says, Reed Jagger listening. I remember finding out while on air that Sir Nick might be listening, and I did an over in the style of Dartford's finest, Katie at the shit fit.
Yeah, Dartford's finest.
He was in Ireland for the test match at Malahide that we covered.
Oh yes, didn't we send someone off to try and grab him from the other side of the ground? And
yeah, they wouldn't let us in.
He did a runner, or he went into the marquee, so we couldn't get hold of him. Broad in full again, once more onto that front foot. Very definite forward defensive from Asad Shafiq as we close in on Jofra Archer, who will be thinking of getting a little bit of a bowl before too long.
Apparently we got as far as some mixed driver.
Ah, right. Mixed drivers. Maybe we should have just had mixed driver on. He might have had some more. He might have given us more tales. Actually,
as I recall, we interviewed virtually everyone else in the ground.
Well, we did actually. In fact, I think we went back into Dublin and just invited people to come up to Malahide. In comes Broad, wider on the crease, driven this time by Shafiq into the ground and then up into the left hand of Broad, who then throws it to his mid-off.
A lovely interview we did with your exhaust fitter.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as anyone who listened to us in Ireland will know that I think it was on the third day, was it? Second or third day, as I was trying to remove my car from where we'd parked it in the ground, some sort of weird spring sprung up from the covering and ripped my exhaust off completely. 240 quid that cost me. Broad in, again, outside the off stump, left alone, through to Butler it goes. It's one of those awful moments when you just hear this scraping noise and your car's not moving properly. There are 4 people in the car and you think, what the hell is that? It's as if the ground has opened an enormous sinkhole beneath you or something like that.
Leah Wicket Witch says, always remember, Hendo, push to talk saves lives or hearing. I think that's regarding your sneeze, I'd imagine, on air.
Yes, okay. I'm sorry about that, yes. I did try to get to the mute button before it happened. In comes Broad again, bowls. Shafiq is forward. Defends towards extra cover. Sibley comes running in, prevents the single. And the score remains 150 for 3. It's got a little bit quiet, hasn't it?
It looks like his bat isn't coming through straight. It almost looks like he's playing away from his body a touch. I haven't quite looked at it hard enough yet to see if he's coming down at an angle, but there's certainly a gap between bat and pad as he's bringing the bat down to block the ball. So I think Broad will fancy with a full delivery. He might have a chance of nipping it through the gate.
Right, well, keep an eye on that. He's a very good player off the back foot, is Asad Shafiq. Very, very good cutter of the ball. This one is wide of the off stump, good length, left alone through the keeper. There is no run.
Sorry, Adrian Lowe says, do you think with the early wicket it was wise to go off last night?
Last night was a very strange one. I mean, I got the impression that well, England fancied getting a wicket last night, didn't they? They wanted to get rid of one of them last night, and they should have got rid of them, even with Root and Best bowling. But as it went on, you felt like it was less advantageous to England to allow them to have these relatively easy runs. Yeah, indeed, they were to prove easy. But I do think it was a strange decision by the umpires to go off when there was no physical danger to the batsman. I did hear someone saying this morning it was about the fielders couldn't see the ball, but I mean, if the fielders are happy with it, then I think you should play on, especially when you've had a day that's suffered. Outside the off stump, Jimmy Anderson bowling to the left-handed Masood, leaves it through to the keeper. It goes, and there is no run. I mean, after a frustrating,
we couldn't. Sorry.
No, go on.
We couldn't hear exactly what was going on because we don't get the audio. But I was unclear as to whether it was the umpires who made that final decision yesterday, or whether it was Root saying, "I want to bowl my quick bowlers."
Yes, I was unclear about that. Yeah, I mean, if he did come back, that's fair enough.
Seems like from some tweets I've seen, which is not a great way of finding stuff out, that the umpires actually took them off about that.
Yeah, well, that is their decision to make, isn't it? These days, this is full again outside the off stump, angled across Masood, and he leaves it alone.
Well, it isn't. It isn't. If they said it's fine to play, we're playing, or it's not fine to play, we're not playing, then okay. But if they've got this sort of middle ground where they say, yes, you can bowl this chap, but you can't bowl that chap, then basically what they're doing is they're putting it in the hands of the fielding captain, so who decides whether they stay on or stay off. So you've moved it from having the batsman make the decision to having the fielder.
Well, no, the batsman doesn't make the decision anymore, does he?
Well, that's what it used to be, but now it's the veto. The veto has gone to the bowling captain, who decides who he wants to bowl.
Anderson bowls onto the back foot, goes Masood. He wants another quick single there, but he's not going to get it. Sibley is too smart for that and is in quickly. Well, no, the umpires can just order the players off if they think the light is too bad.
But there's a middle ground where they say that spinners can bowl, but fast bowlers can't bowl.
Yeah.
The ICC said overnight that it was because the fielders were struggling to pick up the ball.
That is
really
between you and me. That is bollocks.
Yeah, it
the
is.
chance of a fielder getting injured because he can't see the ball is, is absolutely infinitesimal. I mean, honestly, the worst that could happen is that he doesn't pick up a ball and it goes for 4. Big deal.
Anderson in again to Masood. Sean Masood leaves the ball rising through to Butler, and there is no run. So a very quiet period here as Pakistan tried to knuckle down and see off the 2 England opening bowlers. Had a run for, I don't know, a couple of overs at least now, I would say.
But again, it used to be the case that batsmen would start opening their eyes and looking around saying, oh, I didn't see that one. And now, it's the fielding team who's saying, where did that go? I lost that. I couldn't see that. So talk about gaming the system. I mean, it's the umpire should say we're either playing and everybody can bowl, or we're not playing and we go off.
I agree with you, Fred. I'm totally there on that one. Anderson again. 2 slips in the gully. He bowls a full ball that comes back into Shan in the air, but he drives it, punches it quite handsomely up to mid-off, and again there is no run. Yeah, I mean, why are we asking the ICC? I mean, why is the ICC telling us what's happening with the light?
Yeah,
well, the ICC run the umpires, so they make the umpires don't issue, press conferences, or they don't have press conferences or issue statements. The ICC will do it on the behalf of the umpires who they employ.
Okay, fair enough. Chris Wokes is standing on the boundary talking to a teammate in a yellow jacket. In comes Anderson bowls outside the off stump. Left alone again. That's another maiden. Pakistan are 150 for 3. More tweets and maybe a low to 1 or 2 people on Cricket Tracker.
Yeah, I'll follow Cricket Tracker with a couple of tweets. Colt 1954 has raised a point about spike frequencies to do with bats and pads and stuff, but Knackle seems to pick that up because he's quickly realised that's way above my level of intellect. Thanks for that, Knackle. Our man in the West Indies, Zaheer Clark, just talking about Babar Azam, is the only batsman in world cricket, irrespective of the number of innings batted, averaging 50 plus in all 3 formats of the game.
Wow.
1st of January 2018.
Well, he is a fantastic batsman, and that's a great stat. Thanks, Zaheer, for that. Zaheer was on, of course, during the West Indies series. Always welcome to come back if you're statting away there. I think is it in Trinidad that you are, or St Lucia? Broad in bowls outside the off stump to the right-handed Asad Shafiq, who raises the bat high above his head and allows another delivery to pass through to the rather wobbly hands of Jos Buttler.
In terms of Cricket Tracker, we have with us Adnan Ali, Raheem Bartle, Fida Hussain, Subhan Ullah Danish, Amir Khan, Basit Ali Dayab, Malik Bilal Kohar, Adnan Ali, Saqib Shameen. I'll keep going with the rest in a minute, but great to have you all with us, guys.
Clever the way that Adnan Ali got 2 mentions in there. He must have been tweeting in several times on Cricket Tracker. Hello, Adnan. Defended on the front foot up towards mid-off where Wokes fields. There is no run. I wonder if anyone's got Cricket Info open. They can tell us how long there hasn't been a run for. I reckon it's about 3 overs now, something like that. It's all gone very quiet indeed. Broad is into his 15th over. He's got none for 28. Just hasn't been the movement for him that there was against the West Indies. Maybe he just needs one of those spells. That's what we always talk about with Stuart Broad, one of those spells. When will he produce it? Here he comes, charging in past the umpire, and Shafiq drops it down, wants a quick single, then says to Shah Masood, no, don't run. And poor old Shah Masood has to put on the brakes, cartoon-like, and turn back to his end. Zaheer is from Jamaica, David Brooke tells me. Sorry, I thought he was from St Lucia. But there you go, Jamaica, St Lucia. It's all wonderful.
Is the Pakistan running coach Dominic Cork? Because both batsmen seem to take 3 steps down the wicket virtually every single ball just to annoy the fielders.
Oh yes, he did that quite successfully, didn't he?
Well, it annoyed me,
Dominic Cork,
and I wasn't fielding.
Yes, indeed. Full of ball, punched up to mid-off. There was just a hint of late away movement there, but played nicely enough by Asad Shafiq. And again, the score remains 150 for 3. Wicket being kept very quiet on the jingles, very quiet on the wickets front. The runs front. It's all gone a little bit quiet. I wouldn't say dull, but it's wondering who's going to crack first. Are we going to see a wonderful flowing drive for 4, or are we going to see another wicket? for England. In comes Broad. Stay here and you'll find out. He's got an edge and he's got the wicket. It's taken by Ben Stokes, diving in front of Joe Root at first slip. I think Joe Root couldn't believe it. He thought, oh my God, what's he done? What have you done, man? But he's clutched onto it. And Asad Shafiq has gone, and Broad is at the start maybe of one of those spells. They are the ones to blink first. Pakistan 150 for 4. Yes, indeed. He dived right in front of Root. Root was going to take that quite comfortably, I think, as well. He dived across him. If he dropped that, there would have been some looks and words exchanged, no doubt. And Asad Shafiq goes from 22 balls. He made just 7 runs. And there were 17 dot balls before that wicket, which just shows what pressure can do. So a really good start for England this morning.
Top draw cursing that, Hendo. Very impressed. You've absolutely done him a kipper there. Who's gonna break first? Nick?
Was it the Australian coach Buchanan who said if you bowl a lot of dot balls, then something's going to happen? Haven't he? Did he say 15 dot balls, something like that?
Oh, really? Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, he was very close to that 17 dot balls.
Well, I may be making it up, of course. I mean, I like the way after the catch was taken, Butler went and put his arms around Stokes and said, "How did you catch that? No, seriously, how do you catch?
And how do you do that without gloves?
How do you do that? Yeah, please let me know." Yeah, it's a very good morning for England. I mean, they rightly got disparaged for their efforts yesterday with the ball, but they've been right on the money this morning. Even though the ball doesn't seem to be doing that much more than it did yesterday, it's been a very disciplined spell, and they've got 2 wickets and they've deserved them.
And the new man at the crease is the wicketkeeper, Mohammad Rizwan.
Everyone knows he's not his opponent, he can hit the ball really quite far if the bowling's so far, the runs are sure to flow. Oh, he bats and he keeps, and that's what the deal is, because he's Mohammad Rizwan.
Oh, I love the harmonica on that. That's brilliant. Was that Mog or was that Jeff? I'm never quite sure.
That was Mog.
That was Mog. It sounded a bit more Moggish. Anyway, Broad has his first wicket and he's chasing in to Rizwan. Rizwan rather hangs his bat out there without any foot movement whatsoever. It was full enough, so he meets it pleasantly enough. That is the end of the over. Pakistan still stuck on 150, but they have now lost 4 wickets.
Amir Abbas joins on Crick Tracker saying it'll be interesting to see what he says about the last wicket to go as well, but he says Babar Azam should not have played the strokes immediately after play resumed this morning. He made an absolute mess of all of his hard work yesterday. Very upset.
Yeah, well, I understand that. I mean, because he's one of the guys that you want to watch bat, isn't he? Because he's so attractive with his stroke play. But in terms of the match, it's very good news for England, you have to say. Mohammad Rizwan's got a pretty good batting record. He's only played 6 tests, got a highest of 95, but that 95 came against Australia in Brisbane, I think, as they were trying their best to prevent an innings defeat in that game. He's averaging 32. He's done pretty well in domestic cricket, I think, averaging remarkably in those games that he did play, the part of through February and March, I think, was 161. Anderson into Masood, who remains there, the linchpin, and he defends the ball slowly towards extra cover, and there is no run. More tweets?
No, Jono's left. Are we having a changeover? Or,
we will be at the end of this over. We've got 5 balls to go. Jono's left before he was due to leave. He's just had enough.
Ahead of his time, we've lost Jono.
He's very much ahead of his time. Anderson then to the left-handed Masood. Oh, and he has a little fiddle at that one as it rises on its way through to Butler. No, of course, no absolute certainty that Butler would have been able to catch it had it found the edge. But maybe that's being a little bit cruel. But that was a corker from Jimmy. And Jono's back. There he is.
Sorry about that. So when the doorbell goes and you've got a 5-month-old puppy who just goes absolutely berserk, I have to quickly put my mute on and then run to answer the door. So sorry about that.
Okay. Well, these domestic things happen. These interjections throughout the day. In comes Anderson. Bowls. Oh, a wide one this time outside the off stump. Got that a little bit wrong. And Masood leaves it alone, 84 miles an hour. So this is now what 21 balls, 22 balls without a run for Pakistan, and a wicket has gone down in that time. So England really getting on top. Of course, as I said earlier, the GPL is open. Please get on the GPL. Go to GorillaCricket.com, competitions. Decide what you think will be scored in the day. Put the number in the little area that it's supposed to go, or more than one number. Pay us £1 each time, and you get whatever's in the pot if you get it on the nose at the end of the day. You have until lunch to do that. Get on it, quick! Outside the off stump again from Anderson. And Masood, who will not be deflected from his task of staying out there and occupying an end, lets that one go through to the keeper. Yes, the GPL, get on it. It's what keeps us going, amongst other things like tips on hot mic. Tips on hot mic, what other things do? I mean, if you just wanted to bring round a big case of money to Sydenham, that would be acceptable, perfectly acceptable, no questions asked.
I'll do a runner with it
on the doorstep.
We don't care where it's come from.
No, we don't. I mean, if we can't money launder, then who can? That's what I say. Other people may not agree.
Let's run this past the legal department first.
Do we have a legal department?
Yeah, Ed Benson.
We have an illegal department. I'm sure that's true. Anderson now round the wicket to Masood. He bowls, he finds the edge, but it's down into the ground. And Rory Burns had a very fine gully, or maybe a fourth slip. 3 men occupying those slips, but covering the acreage of 4 slips. Dives to his left and fields. And again, there is no run. Don't forget, of course, that you can also help us out. If you're not going to tip us on Hot Mic, if you're not going to do the GPL, if you're not going to buy our archive, you can also, be remembered for all time by all right-thinking people who listen to Gorilla Cricket. The way you do that is go to patreon.com, patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket. And if you give us $10 a month or more, at the moment, you'll get one of our fabulous T-shirts, I think. The Bear will bring you up to date on that. Outside the off stump again, left alone by Masood, and again there is no run. Have we got any T-shirts? Just wave, Bear. Have we got any T-shirts left? Yes, we have got T-shirts left. They're wonderful. They've got things like "No Surrender to Percy Fender" on the back. They've got a fantastic gorilla on the front. In fact, I am wearing one such, if you can see. They're from our original stock of 2015, I think you'll find.
Hello. Mostly we're giving away the World Cup T-shirts.
Oh, and also World Cup T-shirts, which are
we've only got 5 originals, and they're in ladies' sizes, large and small.
Well, in that case, get one for the lady in your life, or if you are the lady in your own life, get one for yourself.
If you have a large and small lady in your life, it's perfect.
Absolutely. Here comes the final ball. No, it's not. There's 2 balls to go. As Broad is in. It's Anderson. What's going on? Anderson bowling, isn't it?
There's a new over the sky. Get off, Hendo.
All right, I'm going.
You've been replaced.
Going.
The Sky scoreboard has frozen. Thank you to Hendo and Jono, who I believe is leaving us. Gary.
I see, Fred. It's because you're on and you're trying to get rid of me. All right, ta-da.
Yeah. Bye, Hendo. And bye, Jono. Always a pleasure to hear Jono and Hendo. Yeah. And welcome to Gary Naylor.
Good morning.
And David Brooke, who's still on mute. So don't say hello, David, as Broad bowls a very full ball, which is defended into the offside. David Brooke is no longer on mute, so I can say good morning, David.
Morning, Fred. Yes.
Morning. Delightful to hear the pair of you. And I think, Gary, it's fair to say it's been England's morning so far.
Well, I mean, everything's in their favour. They've got 2 gun bowlers who know exactly how to bowl under lead and Manchester skies, and Barbara Azam played a shot that you can play after you've been batting for 3 hours, but not after 3 minutes, I'm afraid.
I think lead and Manchester skies is a bit of an oxymoron, as Broad is in again and well outside the off stump, and is left, and Sky are having problems with their scoreboard, their on-screen scoreboard, so I'm going to have to do the hard work and actually identify people by what they look like. So,
well, it hasn't moved the score for about 40 minutes, so I think you're all right.
Yeah, but it did freeze. Morning, Dave. So you would agree, presumably, as all right-thinking people do, that it's been England's day so far?
Is that a leading question, Fred?
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
The scoreboard's back as Broad bowls again. He's trapped him in front. It's almost a select appeal. The umpire has raised his finger, and England have taken a 3rd wicket this morning, but it's been immediately reviewed by Mohammad Rizwan. So they've They've had one successful review, but let's play the review jingle.
I was definitely in. Were you definitely in? I don't know.
I think that's gone past the outside edge, and it looks to have hit him on the knee roll in front of middle and off stump, and surely that's out.
Alligator, see you later.
Yeah, that was the... Oh, no! There was a tiny spike on Ultra Edge. And it looks like, for the second time today, Pakistan are going to retain a review, having been given out. Or rather, going to have a decision overturned. Umpire Illingworth, somewhat sheepishly, is back on camera. He overturns his decision. Broad looks quite phlegmatic. Doesn't look annoyed. So it looked absolutely plumb. It was going to hit, it's going to hit middle and off stump.
I suppose when you've got over 500 wickets, Fred, there's always a thought that another one is going to come along at some point shortly.
Yeah, and I would say the fact that Broad looked at the umpire probably suggests that he didn't think it was out, because otherwise he just goes running off towards fourth slip.
At least Jono didn't say he smashed it, which I'm told is the favoured term in amongst our Premier League cricketers.
Anyway, Broad back into Rizwan, yet to get off the mark. Another straight ball, which is played back down the wicket to him. The batsmen are having to play virtually every ball, which is exactly what you need to do in conditions like this. But bear in mind, it's almost a 60-over ball, so it's not a new ball on the Manchester Leaden skies. It's skillful bowling from two very skillful practitioners.
Just on that Broad DRS earlier on, both Michael Holding and Shane Warne were pretty sure it was the bat hitting the pad that led to the early spike with that. So Broad was a little unlucky with that DRS.
As Broad bowls again, full ball, Rizwan solid in defence, pushes it to Chris Wokes at cover, no run.
Thanks for that, Gary. You've just reminded me why I was suddenly started to enjoy the coverage a lot more since I've, come on to Guerrilla Cricket. It's Shane Warne. I'm not having to listen to or see him.
I know, but you do have some tweets to hear instead. So we've got Adrian Lowe, who says, "Gosh, another one or two before lunch would be dreamland." Well, I think it's pretty much the expectation, the way England are bowling at the moment. Mutley says, "Drinks have arrived." Dave Wood, talking about the legal department, says, "Does this suitcase have to contain legal tender?" And you can tweet us, of course, at Guerrilla Cricket. Lend us your views and we will put them on the air.
If they're good, we will nick them and say they were ours. The left-handed Shan Masood is on strike, facing up to Jimmy Anderson, who bowls a ball which is coming into him from around the wicket, and he defends comfortably. Unchanged bowling so far from Broad and Anderson. We're just shy of 50 minutes, so it's a good work, a good spell from the two old boys. We're looking again at that LBW that was overturned. Smashed it, said Jono, and the experts in the skybox apparently suggest that the second one was correctly overturned, but the first one may have been a bit unlucky for the bowler. Outside the off-stump from Anderson, and Masood leaves to Butler, possibly hoping that he might get some buys, but Butler actually takes this one. So, well done, Joss.
I was going to say, Fred, I've been listening to your rants on the subject of Joss Butler, and I'd like to make the case for Joss.
Oh, this will be good.
I'd like to, but I can't find any statistics to support my argument.
That's a good setup there, Dave. Well done. Well, the Samurai Broad stands at the back of his mark, waiting for something. Oh no, he's watching Jimmy Anderson, in fact, come into bowl outside the off stump. That's a rare one that the batsman hasn't had to play. Although I suppose he could have been tempted into driving a wide one after so many dot balls. Yes, John Buchanan, as I mentioned earlier, was the Australian coach who believed that if you keep the batsman quiet for a certain number of dot balls, you will force them to do something. Obviously, you can't say that about every batsman. Dom Sibley or many batsmen down the years. Hanif Mohammed would have quite happily batted out a whole session without scoring a run, and it didn't affect them. But on average, I think he said 15 or 18 deliveries, and you'll cause them a problem. There's Anderson bowls, and this is quite nicely driven off the back foot square by Shan Masood, but it goes straight to Ollie Pope at point. No
Is
run.
that the same John Buchanan who sort of handed round or put under the doors of all the players a copy of The Art of War?
He's a strange man, and he made as many enemies as friends around the cricketing world, but for a while he had success with a number of his teams. It's always the case with coaches. I think they have a very limited shelf life in that there's only a certain amount of time that their shtick actually works.
Well, Shane Warne was no fan of him, so he must have something going for him.
Yeah, that's definitely a plus mark on his. Anderson bowls again, wide of the off stump, and Sean Masood leaves.
It was the early days of kind of data, and he crunched a lot of empirical stuff to find out that I think it was actually 17, so we'd have been pleased with.
Well, they all
that.
laughed at Columbus when he said the world was round. Who's got the
they
last
all laughed
laugh?
Who's got the last laugh now? Sound, yes. We're going through old Fred Astaire numbers here on Guerrilla Cricket, men of a certain age, as Shah Masood has batted 182 balls so far, and he's about to face his 183rd from Anderson outside the off stump. Again, he leaves the end of the 60th over. Pakistan 150 for 4. Let's have some social media messages.
Yes, well, they're coming through. The technology isn't the easiest to use here, as we're all working from home in the 2020 way. Dave Sarah says, can someone arrange a match between Pakistan's coaching staff and England's? Misbah, Yunus, Mushtaq, Waqar versus Silverwood for Collingwood and Jeetan Patel. Well, I mean, I think that's the Sunday afternoon beer match we're all looking for, isn't it?
Well, in the old days, ITV used to show the Roses County match sometimes, and being that at least one of a year of them were in Manchester, there was a lot of rain going on, and they used to have welly throwing competitions. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
It was in the days of indoor league. On the sodden outfield. Yeah.
It was indoor league where you'd have bar skittles and shove-eightney and stuff like this as main channel entertainment. There was only 3 channels, and if you didn't fancy watching the lunchtime news or the Open University on BBC Two, you watched the shove-eightney on ITV.
Yeah, they
watched the Sullivans.
Yeah, they called it the golden age of broadcasting, Gary.
They did. The Sullivans with a very young Kylie, as I recall.
No, well before Kylie.
Oh, well, she was in.
That would have been Neighbours, I think. Yes, before we had 3 channels before Channel 4 came along and sullied the airwaves.
Is this a change of bowling, Fred?
It looks like it, and we shall jingle him up after his first delivery. He's going to be bowling right arm over the wicket to the right-handed Rizwan, yet to get off the mark, and he drives at pressure. A ball that slightly left him outside the off stump. He's probably getting some chirping from the slips. Let's play his jingle.
He's on Instagram, and he's a Twitter fan. On the Ashes tour, not Ben Stokes, but he'll have to do.
Yeah, England's second all-rounder, whose second syllable of his surname is Oakes. Oh no, it's one syllable, isn't it? Anyway, we'll take that thought back. Wokes bowls again, and a shorter ball, which Rizwan just blocks into the offside. He'll be getting a little bit jittery, Rizwan. He's a batsman who likes to put bat to ball, but he's yet to get off the mark of his 9 deliveries. So maybe a Buchanan wicket might be in the offing in an over or so. 150 for 4, and very much England's morning. They've they had a bad day yesterday, as they usually do at the start of series, even though technically they played the test match last week, as Wokes bowls again, and Rizwan defends square on the offside, no run. Interesting, batsmen who defend their natural defensive shot is square on the offside are surely turning their wrists and are more susceptible to being caught behind or caught in the slips. Would you not say, from a technical point of view, Gary?
Well, I'm amazed how many batsmen choose to use only half a bat when already, the laws restrict the width of the bat, and you see Dominic Sibley and others turning the face inwards, and you see other batsmen like Rizwan here turning the face outwards. I mean, why they don't just push the ball straight back down the pitch, I don't know.
I went to the bowler Gary. Next we'll have the batsman Dave's opinion on that, as Wokes bowls outside the off stump. and Rizwan leads. Dave?
I'd have to ask Toby about that one, Fred. I don't have any opinions of my own since I met the great man.
Which Toby are we talking about?
Toby Radford, the batting coach. The batting coach that West Indies could have done with when they were over here. Instead of Floyd Reefer, who was doing the job.
There is a feeling that when you close the face a little, it means when you've got bat and pad close together that you kind of inside edge it onto your pad, and that's a safer way of playing.
Works bowls again. Well, this time he's found a gap between point and gully, has Rizwan. Heads down towards third man. Chased back by Ollie Pope. 2 runs for Rizwan. He is off the mark now. 2 from 12 deliveries, 152 for 4.
Fred, sorry.
Carry on.
No, I was just about to say what a pleasure it was to listen to your reading of the keeping us informed of the county scores, in the denouement of the Surrey Middlesex match during the Ireland matches, and to see Gary back in print on the Guardian blog about the return of county cricket.
And what a splendid return it was.
Yes, indeed.
Welch bowls again. Again nudged square by Rizwan, or just behind square down towards third man. Again, Pope has to chase it down. 2 more to Rizwan. The end of the 61st over. Rizwan has 154 for 4. Let's have some tweets. Sorry, Dave.
Armchair Cricket Podcast is channeling the spirit of John Buchanan. Says 6 maidens in a row. It has brought about 1 wicket. If Pakistan cannot break loose, more might follow. And I think that's certainly the case. You can tweet us at Guerrilla Cricket. They seem to be coming through somewhat slowly at the moment, but if you choose to make an observation, then we'd be delighted to hear from you.
Yeah, what made me think of that county cricket stuff was seeing the big poster of Bob Willis that's over on the ground advertising his charity, the late Bob Willis. It's hard when you see a big picture of him looking over the ground like that. It's hard to think that he's no longer with us.
It is. It's ironic that they've named the county trophy after him, considering how little county cricket he actually played. Anderson bowls, and Shan Masood defends him. Has
played or watched?
Well, I mean, he probably played quite a lot of county cricket, but compared to his contemporaries, he seemed to miss a lot of games. He played more for England than he did for counties.
Particularly ironic that 18 counties are competing with the Bob Willis Trophy, seeing that was Willis. Bob's main shtick was to reduce the number of counties and to reform county cricket completely. He wouldn't have been.
Well, it was a fantastic.
Should take in the field.
It was a fantastic round of county games, which you can read about on Gary's Guardian column. This is driven square very nicely by Shan Masood. I thought it was a little bit risky, but he got it all the way along the ground, just behind point for 4 runs.
2 + 2 is on man.
And yesterday we had a lunch session where Hendo, Tony and I discussed county cricket at great length after another one of Dave's interviews didn't quite materialise, and it was it was a pleasure to watch county cricket again and just to look what was going on up and down the country, because if one game's in a bit of a lull, you can switch to another game, and there were so many good games.
Yeah, what did you think of the improved streaming service? Is this the future of county cricket, Fred?
It's certainly an advance. Whether it will end up being monetised, we shall have to wait and see. Anderson bowls a very full ball, actually a half volley, which is driven through extra cover nicely by Shan Masood. Who went to field that? That's.
If Surrey can't monetise that, I'd be very surprised. But did you think the use of sort of 6 cameras and roving camera and all that, was it a big improvement in terms of your enjoyment of the match?
6, I heard they had 3. Some of the direction was a little bit haywire, but obviously they're learning their craft. Oh, it's Dan Lawrence who's on the field as a substitute. I thought I didn't recognise him from the England playing 11. I'm not sure who's off. Doubtless Knackle will patter in from the green room to tell us. Anderson has not changed. No, he's been at the same end. So I misled you slightly earlier, and he will be bowling to Mohammad Rizwan. I think that's his first go at the Pakistan wicketkeeper. I'll be interesting to see how impressive he is with the gloves. A number of Pakistan wicketkeepers have failed in that regard recently. A very full ball, a half volley, which is driven back to the bowler by Mohammad Rizwan. Broad is the man off the field, but he's about to come back on.
On that point, are you aware that Babar Azam is the cousin of multiple Akmals who have failed with the gloves of Pakistan?
I didn't know that. No, multiple Akmal. He's the brother we haven't seen.
Kamran
Multiple.
Adnan.
He sounds like a Bangladeshi, doesn't he? Multiple. As Anderson bowls, and this is again with his bat a little bit away from his body. Rizwan works it square on the offside.
I should explain, Fred.
Analysis. Yeah, go on.
Well, you mentioned interviews didn't materialise. We were meant to be joined yesterday by Dr. Kashif Ansari, our authority on Pakistan cricket. But as you know, his day job is a surgeon in the Houston hospital, and he's absolutely inundated at the moment with COVID-19 patients up all night tending to their needs. Fred, how does that make you feel now?
It was a dig at you, not at him, obviously. Yeah, no, we cope with it pretty well. The professionals that we are, even though it's not reflected by money in our bank statements. As Jimmy Anderson in and bowls to Rizwan, who leans forward in defence. The end of the over. 62 overs have gone. Pakistan 159 to 4. Shah Masood has 55 and Rizwan 4.
Yes, Tim Everingham says, "Evening, Gorillas. Don't be surprised if Shane Warne tries to promote this during his commentary stint, and it's his new brand of gentleman's fragrance. Smells like Botox, cheap cigarettes, and a hint of smugness and wankerism," as he says there. Well, Warne's usually got something going on down the sides of his life, and at the moment it's a fragrance that he's flogging.
Gary.
Derek Willis says, "My late father's name was Bob Willis, so I'm all in favour of keeping this county championship trophy title." And Woy Woy Pom says, "Afternoon all."
I don't know whether the Bob Willis Trophy is a one-off name for this truncated season competition, or whether they're planning to keep it in the future.
It's a one-off.
It is a one-off, yeah. So, I don't think the county championship needs to be renamed. It's been working pretty well for about 150 years.
But
even though they change the format every other year.
Well, obviously, you can always add a sponsor onto it, can't you? But the thing that they might look at retaining is this three conference structure, which I've always been opposed to until I've actually seen it in action. And, well, it actually seems to be, there's certain logic to it, isn't there?
Well, I like two divisions. I always have. I think you can give as much credit to that as Duncan Fletcher in the recovery of English cricket from its nadir in the late 90s. And
you don't think Division 2's a bit of a graveyard, Gary? The press box is empty. I haven't even seen you at one.
Well, I mean, Division 2, sometimes the standard can be less than good, but there's plenty of players who've started out in Division 2 and got a transfer to Division 1 sides and come through. There's also some outstanding overseas players who play in Division 2, and I think there's room for a kind of some counties that traditionally have not necessarily been challenging for the pennant to play at Division 2 level. I just think you've got two divisions. I would go with 2 up and 2 down rather than 3 up and 3 down. I think that creates a little too much uncertainty. But 2 up, 2 down with 2 divisions, all play all 4 days.
It's so lopsided now, though, with the first division having been expanded. You've got a rump of teams in Division 2. It does feel like the land that time forgot, you know?
Well, you're all ignoring the fact that these games that just finished, I think 3 Division 2 teams beat 3 Division 1 teams.
No, sure, yeah.
It is a bit unusual with so many players being unavailable, but I think if you're at Cheltenham and Gloucester are playing someone like, I don't know, Worcestershire in one of the spells in Division 2, I mean, I'd go along and see that. I don't necessarily want to see the kind of intensity you get in Essex against Somerset going for the pennant every day. Nothing wrong with it.
Would I go to see day 3 of Gloucestershire versus Worcestershire?
I really would.
Last summer I was sat for a whole day with Gary watching a second division game. We had a good old natter, much to the chagrin of the other people who were in the press box.
Well, one of you is a Middlesex fan. That would explain your presence. Gary, were you there as a member of the Fourth Estate?
I was there for literally the free lunch, I think, but it was a most enjoyable day, and it's often like that at county cricket. The cricket is sometimes, to some extent, incidental to everything else that's going on, and to sort of reduce counties to 12 or something like that, I think would be throwing away a lot of history and a lot of particularly rural culture at a time when the government are quite keen to look at some of these small towns and do something for them. Closing down their county championship side wouldn't be very clever, in my opinion.
The drinks break is over, and Chris Wokes will resume England's attack after it. He'll be bowling to Shan Masood, who's been there since yesterday morning, and he's still there after this delivery as he just works this between point and cover for a single.
What would you say, Gary, to those three counties who were very reluctant, in fact, voted against resuming 4-day cricket this season and had to be, overruled? It was against their financial interest, better off keeping the staff on furlough. What would you say to those three counties?
Well, I would say that it's a year unlike any other, and it's very difficult to make predictions about what's going to happen from week to week. We see in baseball it's a bit chaotic, with some matches not being played and so on. I think they have to do what's right at the time, but in retrospect, it seems the right decision to play cricket, and the way the players embraced it last week is the proof of the pudding.
Yeah, you can't blame the players.
Is on Rizwan's pads. He still manages to work it onto the offside. No run.
No, you can't blame the players, and I wasn't trying to there. But what does it say about three counties who would rather, sort of not play than play because they're going to lose money from doing that? I mean, it's not a great form of motivational administration, is it?
No, it's not. But I mean, I would want to know the detail to see what has driven that decision. I wouldn't want to make any claims before that.
Fair enough.
Wokes in again, and this is through Rizwan. Presumably they went past the outside edge. Did it keep a little bit low?
It did.
Let's have a look at that again. Well, no, not really. He just jabbed down on it and jabbed down inside the line of the ball. May have moved away a touch. The Wokes, who bowled particularly well in the third test against the West Indies. England, David, won that series 2-1. I think we should remind you, because you were very cock-a-hoop after the first game, but not talked about it much since, as Wokes bowls again straight a ball, and Rizwan defends is up to mid-on.
On contrary, I was actually told to shut up by a couple of our Twitter party, because I was actually bemoaning West Indies' poor management, coaching, strategy, tactics, and pointing the finger very much at Phil Simmons, Floyd Reefer, Waddy Esprit, and the rest of them. I mean, so many mistakes were made off the field. I don't think you can blame the players.
Well, this the inter-Nissan conflict, inter-island conflict in the West Indies is something we've long been used to, as Wokes bowls to Rizwan, and the ball is played back to Wokes, who kicks it to his fellow fielder.
I mean, Pakistan had the right idea. They've obviously been watching that series. Not much else to do in Derbyshire at the Premier Inn. And they've seen, and Babar Azam made the bold decision to bat first yesterday, and it was, absolutely the right decision if you're looking to win or a test match. And I think the problem with West Indies' approach was they were looking to, draw or maintain a 1-0, 1-1, rather than looking to win a match.
Wokes bowls again, and on the pads of Rizwan, he tries to flick it through the leg side, gets it too straight to mid-on. That's the end of the over. 160 for 4. If you're listening in Derby and you want to defend your beautiful county, one of the most beautiful counties in England, to send your tweets to David Brooke.
He'll be very busy. If that person will be very busy, because I heard the Pakistan analyst on Sky saying that Pakistan can be prepared, have had testing conditions because they've been 2 weeks in Derbyshire. So even he was making the same joke.
Gary, read us some tweets. We're probably
there's a question from Martin Lawrence, and I'll let you guys answer it first, and I'll come in. And he says, "Hello. What's the biggest difference between divisions 1 and 2 of the county?
The number.
Championship.
One's called Division 1 and one's called Division 2.
Fred, that sets them up in your
with 2 up and 2 down. Literally anybody can go down and anybody can go up. It's it needs a bit of more thought. Let's run through some more tweets and we'll come back to that perhaps.
Peter Lloyd says, other than the odd adjustment seasons, it's always been 2 up and 2 down between the divisions. I don't think that's quite so. There was definitely a few years when it was 3 up and 3 down, but I think it's now 2 up and 2 down, had we been having an orthodox season. My view is that the batting in Division 1 is stronger.
Change of bowling. Bear, when you're ready, we'll have a jingle. as this new bowler is bowling right arm around to the left-handed Masood. It's cut, not fielded cleanly by Pope at point, so Masood can take a single. Let's jingle up the bowler.
He will break your helmet, break your heart. Hotter than lava, cooler than Bogart. In your face, at your stumps, on your toes, on your mum. Joffrey,
Yes, it is he who bowled pretty well yesterday, but an absolute beauty to come back between the bat and pad of somebody. Oh, and this one does something similar. It was more or less left by Rizwan, and it went over middle stump, and not over by very much either. And well, Archer is laughing as he goes back to his mark. It was a foolish ball, and it was left. Well, it went a fair way over middle and leg stumps, but a pretty brave lead from the Pakistan wicketkeeper.
And Jofra has the ability to really jack it back in at pace, and I know everyone's focused on the speed gun when it comes to Jofra, but he does move the ball a lot.
He's in again to Rizwan, whose default mode is to try and defend it square of the wicket on the offside.
I mean, Jofra has delighted Sussex fans in the 2 seasons he played first-class cricket with his booming in-swingers rather than his pace, because he has got the ability to uproot stumps with late swing, and that was a particular feature of his bowling at Sussex. Now, I don't remember him bowling that fast or that short, but obviously from the Steve Smith incident last year, his fame has taken off in a different capacity.
Well, and they may be asking him to do a particular job as he bowls again, full ball on off stump, which Rizwan defends. I haven't seen big swing from him though. I must say.
Well, just saw it in the 2 balls ago, Fred.
Well, it was off the wicket rather than swing.
I'd like to take issue with that.
Yeah,
I'd like to go to Gary. I'd like to go to Gary.
Feel free to be wrong.
I would say with Jofra, he gets so close to the stumps that any movement he gets at all looks quite big, because he's bowling really from off stump to off stump line with that action that he has, and in particular how close he is to the stumps. It's a bit like Glenn McGrath, doesn't need to move it far.
Yeah. No, it's fair enough. Fred's watched him for 3 balls. I've only watched him for 2 full seasons playing county championship. So Fred's fair enough. He's always a fair person. He always listens to everyone's opinion, and never someone who.
That's a full ball on leg stump, which is played back to the bowler. David, keep digging. please don't stop.
Only one thing worse than being talked about, Fred, and that's not being talked about. As you well know.
I'm not so sure about that. I've never been quite sure about that aphorism, I have to say. As the camera again picks out the Pakistani coaching staff. This is a short ball into the hip of Rizwan. He turns it round the corner, sets off a quick single, which they make the end of Archer's over. 64 gone. 162 for 4. Shah Masood has 57, and Rizwan, who's kept the strike, has 5. Let's run through some tweets.
Well, I've got one here from Andy Murphy, who simply says tidy. I'm not quite sure what that refers to. When I was growing up, it usually used to refer to Bonnie Tyler, but that's, I'm sure, a different meaning of the word tidy. Other than that, I'm not seeing many tweets coming through, I'm afraid. So
I just saw one from Rob Key. Rob Key, Gary. He said, wife said I was smelling good this morning. What are you wearing? Shane Warne.
Honestly, how attractive is it to want to smell like Shane Warne? I mean, there's probably a niche market for it, but I'm not sure it's a mass market product. As Chris Wokes, beloved England player, bowls a full ball which Rizwan defends. I've never heard, I don't think, anyone say a bad word about Chris Wokes.
Can I just say before... sorry.
Never met the chap. Maybe David would like to tell us that he's an awful human being.
Oh no, everyone loves Chris Wokes. There's nothing to debate there. I was just thinking, what cricketer, to ask the Twitterati, if we're looking for tweets, what cricketer is least suited to having an aftershave named after them?
Well, I think Paul Sterling, for one, given...
This is a full ball on off stump, and Rizwan tries to play a biggish drive, but gets off the inside half of the bat to mid-on, no run.
Great though his innings was, he was going for the helmet squeeze perspiration drop from that Flintoff used a lot in 2005. during that fantastic innings against England at the Ageas Bowl. So I'm going with Paul Sterling.
Yeah, sorry about the smell, lads. I'm wearing Colin Dredge tonight.
Wokeson again. And this is a flamboyant drive. He takes one hand off the bat, does Rizwan, as he drives us up to mid-off where it's fielded by Broad. I think he's feeling a little bit tied down, and dare we say he's a walking wicket. As at tea time tomorrow he brings up his double century, but he's looking a little bit skittish, I think it's fair to say, Mr. Rizwan.
Yeah, I think we forget that this is the first time these players have been in a competitive match in the middle. You know, there's a bit of rustiness in the Pakistan batting.
There's Wokes bowls and a good lead from Rizwan.
I think Rizwan's under particular pressure, Fred, because he's got Sarfraz in the pavilion looking down on him as the reserve keeper. I always think if the former captain, senior players made reserve keeper on a tour, it does put pressure on the front line guy. You know?
Yeah, I suppose so. As I say, I can't recall having seen him with the gloves, so I wouldn't like to comment on his wicket keeping as yet. As Wokes bowls to him, and it's full, driven, up to mid-off. They think about a single, there isn't one there as Broad comes into field. And one thing England have done very well today is cut down the poor balls and not giving away any free runs or free boundaries.
Yeah, there's been some very tight lines bowled by England, which is good to see.
What did they start the day at? 132, was it? 139 for 2, so we've only had 23 runs so far in an hour and 17 minutes as Wokes bowls, and this is pushed into the offside by Rizwan. Straight to cover, no run. 65 overs have gone, 162 for 4. Tweets.
Well, Mog says, you bastards haven't read one of my tweets all day. That's partly because this is the first tweet I've seen from Mog, so that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. Punk Rock Chooses You says, thanks for the coverage. Listening to the match on my phone from the States. So, happy wishes going across the Atlantic to you. I'm just refreshing the phone here in hope of getting some more tweets coming through. Yes, Lee Wicket Witch says, Jack, I'll stink aggressively at the batsman from behind the stumps, Russell, who wouldn't buy his aftershave. Well, certainly the hat, I think, probably didn't smell too good on Jack Russell. And Dave Wood says, inappropriate cricketers to have a cologne. I'm not sure I would purchase a Hoggard.
Round the wicket, Archer to the left-handed Shah Masood, and the ball is played back to him. Alistair
but he does say a will would be a must-have, though.
If you used Alistair Cook's deodorant, famously a man who never sweated, then he'd probably be somebody you could use to promote your product. Dave, you're big into advertising.
Well, I was just going to say I would turn that suggestion down on the grounds that he doesn't sweat, therefore doesn't require it. So you couldn't tell whether the antiperspirant was doing its job or not. It's the opposite of the girl that used to climb up the mountain in those ads.
Are you saying that advertising wouldn't lie as Archer comes round the wicket, a shorter ball, which is helped round the corner by Shah Masood to long leg for a single that exposes Rizwan to Archer's pace and huge, prodigious in-swing. We're going to have a change at the end of this over. Knuckle is coming into ball-by-ball commentary. Dave is staying on, but moving to tweets, and John O'Gordon will be back and giving his expert summaries of what is happening. That'll happen in 4 balls' time, as Archer is up to the wicket. Bowls to Rizwan, who again, well, he plays this very nicely, actually, square on the offside. Has he timed it well enough to get to the boundary? No, not quite, as Dom Bess chases it down, but they do take 3 runs to make Rizwan feel a little bit better. 166 for 4, he's up to 8.
Just checking to see whether there was any clearer with my glasses on, but it wasn't.
Oh, just listen. Just I'll paint pictures with words for you, David.
Oh, Shan Masood. I mean, that picture would be still life, Fred, wouldn't it? Because I admire that. I admire the fact he's come here, with a plan and knowing what went wrong last time, and just having nothing to do with anything that's wide of the stumps. I mean, it's very disciplined and thoroughly commendable.
It's a bit like Sibley's tremendous 100 as Archibald's again closer to the off stump.
Yeah, that was a case in point. Sort of ball that last year, could easily have pushed that, and any number of players might have played at that because it, ended up. Butler took it down almost leg stump, but he wasn't going to be tempted by that. And he's got a plan.
He's going to worry about the big in swing though, surely.
So the left hand though, it would be a way swing.
Okay. He only swings it one way. That's
well, no, he does swing it both ways, but it's the in swinging Yorker to the right hander that was his I think best seller as far as his Division 2 cricket was concerned.
Rightio. There's Archibald's again. A straighter ball which Masood has to play. Play it he does, up to mid-on, no run. One ball left of our spell. Dave will be staying on, Gary and I will be leaving. We're leaving you in some capable hands. What's been a very good first hour and 20 minutes for England. They've picked up 2 wickets and they've absolutely dried the runs up, putting pressure on the batsmen with the bowling and putting pressure in the batsmen's heads by the fact that they're not scoring runs. As Archer bowls to Shah Masood, defends it back to him. The end of the 66 over, 166 for 4. Shan has 58 and Rizwan 8.
Few tweets, Fred, as we wait for a change in the commentary box. Josie OK says, I suspect an aftershave called Raheem Cornwall wouldn't be a bestseller. You never know. Martin Lawrence says, an idea for aftershave, Merv Hughes. I'll let you work out good or not. Tony Bish, how morning Tony, says Essence of Willie might not be a bestseller. It wouldn't translate. Yeah, you're right. It could be difficult packaging brief as well.
I think in certain markets that might go down very well indeed. Good morning, Dave. Good morning, Jono. I'm Knuckle Mpande taking you through till lunch on Ball by Ball here on Guerrilla Cricket. You're listening to our coverage of the Pakistan tour of England. Pakistan are 166 for 4, having started today in a very promising position of 139 for 2, some 15 overs ago. But Broad and Anderson was superb this morning, and Wokes and Archer will look to try and replicate that pressure that brought the wickets of Babar Azam and Asad Shafiq. Wokes outside of stump. Mohammad Rizwan, the Pakistan keeper, leaves through to Jos Buttler, the England keeper, and there is no run. Mohammad Rizwan has not looked particularly fluent this morning, a little bit jabby, slightly sort of playing inside out, but he's in good form. Got 150 in the intra-squad game against obviously a good attack, given that it's composed of most of the Pakistan bowling attack. And his Quaid Azam 100s, he made 2 in 3 games in the first class tournament, were both against good attacks. He tries to get a quick single into the offside, but as he drops it in front of him, but Shah Masood rightly sends him back, and there is no run. Yeah, his internationals on full in filling both the bowling attacks that he made his hundreds against. To pick out a few names, Sahel Tanveer played for Pakistan for a long time, Musa Khan, Shadab Khan, who's playing in this game, Imad Wazim, Mohammad Nawaz, Naseem Shah, and Bilal Asif, Zafar Gohar, Ehsan Adil, all have played international cricket for Pakistan. So Mohammad Rizwan, if he can get through this period, is a good player and has power to add some runs, but can he get through this period? That's a good delivery from Wokes. Came in sharply in the air and off the wicket, and Mohammad Rizwan is jumping to try and work this into the leg side, but thumps him on the pad, going well down leg. There is no run. Big hooping in swing with the old ball.
Yeah, I think Shafiq and Rizwan this morning have just looked a little bit frantic. When you think about how well Masood and Azam played yesterday, it just looks, I mean, the pitch hasn't changed too much, but it's just a different approach.
Fourth ball from Wokes, and Rizwan tries to punch down the ground, but chokes up on the bottom hand and ends up dragging it to mid-on. There is no run. The timing's not quite there for Mohammad Rizwan, but he's just got to find a way of getting through. Asad Shafiq is a super player. He really is. He's got a fantastic record over his 10-year Test career, and looks much more comfortable now in the middle order after having been moved up to 4 after the retirement of Misbah and Yunus Khan. But hadn't quite got his feet moving and hadn't quite got his weight transfer going this morning. and it was thus dismissed by Stuart Broad. Similar delivery actually that works balls to Rizwan that got Babar Azam earlier from James Anderson. Rizwan takes the bottom hand off the bat and fends it on the bounce to Gully, and there is no run. Pakistan have no way out here this morning.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier in the first stint, I think Shafiq and now Rizwan, they both just look like they're playing away from the body a little bit, like they're trying to go at the ball a little bit too hard. And Masood has been proven to play right underneath his eyes, and that's why he's lasted so long.
Rizwan does wait for this and jabs it out to backward point. There is no run. Another good tight over for England. Pakistan 166 for 4. Tweets.
On the tweet side there, Dave Wood says Willie could always go into partnership with Dennis Ramdin. I'm sure there'd be a market for that scent. Got to work that one out. I'll come back on that.
Willie Ramdin.
Oh yes. Armchair Cricket podcast says a significant reduction in the innings runs per over shows how effective England have been this morning. Gits and Grats, back on the subject of cricketers that you wouldn't want to necessarily name a cologne after, says the official Gorilla Body Mist, a woody fragrance with olfactory notes.
Hold those olfactory notes as Arch is in and squares Shah Masood up, but he plays it nicely. Shah Masood waiting for the ball, as Jono was saying, blocked it back to the bowler. There is no run. Go with those olfactory notes.
The official Gorilla Body Mist, a woody fragrance with olfactory notes of linseed oil, leather and banana. I like it. I think that's a winning formula.
Men's fragrancing is so ridiculous that sounds like it could work. As Archer's in, tighter to off stump and clipped by Shan Masood, but can't beat Dom Bess at mid-wicket. There is no run. This is where Barber was so good yesterday, his ability to score off good balls, and it's what really sets the good players from the potentially great players. There aren't many cricketers who can consistently score off good balls against good attacks, but Babar Azam is up there with the very best of them.
Yeah, he's a class apart, isn't he, from anything else that we've seen. Obviously, Masood's done extremely well to dig in. He's playing very much within himself. But yeah, you can see the class of Azam compared to the rest of the attack we've seen.
Third ball of the over from Archer. A good bouncer which flies through to Joss Butler. He has to take it above his head. The carry in this Old Trafford pitch is pretty good. Archer slipping himself for the first time today, bowling 88 miles an hour. He's mostly been bowling within himself, looking for movement and accuracy, but that was sharp. Well played by Shah Masood, or well not played, as the case may be. No run.
Yeah, the pitch looks like it maybe has quickened up a fraction from yesterday. We were saying earlier, weren't we, yesterday, that it looked like it was maybe sticking in the pitch and there was a fair bit of lateral movement off the seam. It doesn't seem to be quite as prominent today.
In comes Archer. Shortest delivery, which Shah Masood is late on with the pull shot, early on, in fact, really, off the toe end of the bat, fielded by Bess, diving at mid-wicket. There is no run. I think there was a bit of rain leading up to the test match, so I think the pitch was a little bit slower than it might have been, but it is quickening up. We're not expecting too much sun today at Old Trafford, but certainly day 3 we expect to be sunny and full, so it might and 4 as well, so it might quicken up and the cracks might start to open up, bringing Pakistan's 2 leg spinners into consideration. As Archer's in, short ball which swings after it passes Shah Masood's ducking head, and through to Butler it goes. There is no run. Pakistan picking Yasir Shah and Shalal Khan.
Yeah, it'd be interesting with that. The bounce when Masood, uncharacteristically charged down the wicket to Dominic Bess and missed it yesterday when the missed stumping opportunity happened. I think the 2 leg spinners in the Pakistan side will be looking forward to having a go on this.
Certainly will. Yasir Shah ball's pretty quick for a leg spinner. Last ball of the over from Archer is a short ball, a little bit too leg sidey, and Shah Masood can help this around the corner to the man back on the deep square leg boundary, and they come through for a single. Shah Masood moves to 59 off 199 balls. What fight he's shown. Mohammad Rizwan is on 8. Pakistan 167 for 4.
Knuckle, I'm going to read this tweet for the second time today. It's from Mog saying, "You bastards haven't read one of my tweets all day." Okay, because I've read that twice now, so you should be happy now. Mog, got it up to you. Or was it one of the more wittier ones you sent in earlier? Gloomy Aspect says, "Just the one no ball called by the third umpire. Are we surprised there haven't been more, given all the talk about those uncalled no balls previously?" Interesting point.
Well, given that the third umpire's watching every ball, I think we can safely say that there has only been one front foot no ball. We understand that the players on both sides were consulted and very much in favour, and may even have advocated for this change. it may well be that knowing that they're being watched more closely, they're deliberately holding back from that front line. As Chris Wokes is in, right arm over the wicket from the James Anderson end. 2-4 long leg side, and Shah Massoud, even in his on a leg stump half volley, clips it very fine, 4 runs.
1 2 ka 4 4 2 ka 1. My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
First genuinely poor ball England have bowled this morning.
Yeah, they've bowled very good lines, haven't they? Really restricted the Pakistani batsmen to scraps, really. I can't remember how many maidens there were in a row. I think it was maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, the England bowling attack have really stuck to the job and the guns this morning, and really applied some pressure, which has brought about two solid wickets.
Shah Massoud moves to 63 off 200 balls, his double cow and ton, or double dentury if you're following this from an England cricket Twitter point of view. Leaves his 201st alone, through to the keeper there is no run. Credit also for Shah Massoud, having faced 200 balls, having been tied down, for not missing out on that scoring opportunity. I think he's batted very nicely.
Placed it nicely, didn't he? Placed it nice and fine, because there was a long leg there, and he just managed to wait on it and get it nice and fine.
Yeah.
You'd have been pleased with that placement, Jono.
Yeah, I only hit it in front of square, David. I don't rely on edges and whatnot. A full face to the bat only, my friend. I wish.
As Wokes is in, 2 slips on the gully, 3 men up in the offside, 2 men in the leg and the long leg, left alone by Shah Massoud as Wokes angles this across his bows, so there is no run.
Talking of club cricket, I had a tweet from Hugh Taylor, who's at Palmer's Cricket Club. And Jono, I know you're a big fan of club cricket, me too. The best club in Brighton is Palmer's Cricket Club, Hove Recreation Ground. Fantastic group of lads there. And Hugh Taylor's been in touch to say Hog Spray from Rodney or Brad Hogg. Yeah, I wouldn't go for that one. Good one there, Hugh. Colognes that you wouldn't name a cricketer after.
Wokes is in. Gets this one to come back into Shah Massoud. Not really much of an appeal. Might have been an inside edge, a little bit high as well. Bounces out into the gully. There is no run. Good ball from Chris Wokes. Root is not remotely interested in the review. There is no run. I think I've probably
arguably been as impressed with Shah Massoud today as I was yesterday. He was obviously a lot more probably free flowing yesterday once he got in, but he stuck to his task today, and rather than almost trying to hit his way out of a real good spell of English bowling this morning, he's remained tight, and he's got confidence that his runs will come.
In comes Wokes, full delivery on the stumps. Shah Massoud clips it back to the bowler. There is no run. There's a good interview that Jared Kimber did on his podcast with Shah Massoud, talking about how Shah Massoud has overcome the troubles that he had. So after that desperate tour of England in 2016 and his first 10 tests, he was averaging in the 20s. And he sent Jared Kimber an email, and he went to various different people, including Gary Palmer, the batting coach, as Wokes is in last ball of the over. On leg stump and clipped into the onside. There'll be a single wide of mid-on. Shan will keep the strike on 64. Rizwan is on 8. Pakistan 172 for 4. So he went away.
He went to Gary Naylor as well, didn't he?
Well, he hired Gary Palmer off his own bat, as it were, and spent time in England after that tour to work on his game outside off stump, on leaving the ball wider and then having scoring options in the offside, which he didn't have before. And he read voraciously, and he looked at everything that he could possibly look at, including talking to analysts like Jared Kimber and a few others, and Nathan Lehman and others, to try and work out how to become a better cricketer. And I think this innings is testament to that desire for self-improvement.
Interesting. Very much a theme of the last Test series was what you can do to improve your technique online, with emails and videos and all that. Lot of, obviously, another player that's benefited.
As Archer's in, good Yorker, but dug out well by Shah Massoud. We're playing with the swing. It'll pick up 2 through mid-wicket. There is no one at mid-wicket, so Anderson has to retrieve it, running round to his left. Shah moves to 66.
Can actually improve. Sorry, I was saying you can actually improve your game during the lockdown.
Well, indeed,
when there was no cricket.
But this is a little bit further back than that. This is going back to the tour of. It was 2016 that Shah Massoud first worked with Gary Palmer. So this was in-person coaching sessions. 3 times a week, 3-4 hours a day.
I thought you said he was talking to Jared Kimber and others.
Yeah. He talked to Jared, I think, in 2018.
And I thought you said it was email.
As back of a length, and Sean forces this off the back foot. There is no run. It's fielded by Sibley at cover. There is no run. The initial contact was via Jared Kim. But Jared goes into it all in detail on his podcast and in a piece he wrote yesterday.
I'll tell you what, Radders must be signing some big old checks for you, Brooksy.
I haven't mentioned his name. Toby Radford, battingcoaching.com.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing that astounds me about batting, I'll come to after this ball.
Archer continuing round the wicket to Shan Masood. The two-leg side and clipped nicely by Masood. There is a man back on the deep square leg boundary, about 10 yards off it. Perhaps setting Shan Masood up for another short ball. Dumb best that man is, and he fields. They come through for a single.
We're talking about Masood there and having a limited offside game. How do cricketers get to this level with having limited games? They must be able to play all the shots. It's like we talk about footballers. How can't they use both feet? But apparently they're scared to get dropped by using a weaker foot.
He's got a plan, Jono. He's come out with a plan. He's restricting himself to certain shots.
Even at 2016.
Archer in fourth ball of the over, short into the hips of Mohammad Rizwan. This tactic of using Archer as an enforcer seems to be what England are going with, but turned off the hips by Mohammad Rizwan down to long leg. They come through for a single.
If you've got a limited game, how do you get through the ranks to become an international cricketer? You can't just have 4 shots.
Alistair Cook and Andrew Strauss would beg to differ.
Yeah, but at international level, that's what they concentrated on to not get out. But they must be able to play all the other shots because they would have found those other shots easier.
Well, Shan Masood can play them, but he's choosing not to.
Well, he's worked on them. He didn't have them before. He didn't have any way really of scoring from just outside off stump, which is the ball that Test bowlers bowl most. And I think there is a step up in class between first class and Test bowlers as Archer comes in short ball, which Shan Masood ducks, taken by Butler down the leg side. There is no run. Bouncer was on the right line, but too short. With first class bowlers, even good first class bowlers, you can usually wait. You can wait long enough for the bad ball. You can't do that against Test bowlers. You just won't get enough bad balls, and eventually one of them will get you out, and you won't have scored any runs.
I would argue that they have them. They're either too scared to use them, or that as you say, the step up in quality of bowler means that maybe they need to work on it. But I think they have to have all the shots.
Last ball of the over from Archer. Good delivery, full, and Shan Masood blocks back to him. There is no run. 70 overs gone. Pakistan 176 for 4.
I'm not saying that he hasn't got them, but I'm just saying that you could choose not to play them, Jono.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Go out there and say, right, I got out last year over and over again in England by playing balls I shouldn't do, and this time I'm not going to touch it there because that's my plan. And maybe as the series goes on, he'll speed up a bit. But I think it's not a bad plan of action. It's working for him, and he's still there on 67.
And then how do you score in the meantime? How do you score once you get that poor delivery? Read a tweet or two.
Well, he's got 67.
Read a tweet or two.
I said he's got 67.
Yes, indeed. He's been very good off his hips and through backward point and gully. Rizwan yet to look as confident, and now he's gone. Beautiful delivery from Chris Wokes, trapping Rizwan in the crease. Little bit of late movement, taken on his knees by Jos Buttler. Mohammad Rizwan is gone for a very scratchy 9. Pakistan 176 for 5. Rizwan's a good player, but he never looked in at all today, and that was a tame end.
His bat's a long way in front of his body there as well. He's pushed at that with limited, if any, foot movement at all. I'm not sure whether Chris Wokes was appealing to the umpire then, or just like turning around in disbelief that Jos Buttler had taken one cleanly. Eddie.
Doesn't drop. He's been pretty good off the fast bowlers, Jos Buttler, through his keeping career. But you would expect someone to take that, and he did. Mohammad Rizwan his feet went nowhere. His head was in no position to play. You don't need huge footwork if you're weights into the shot, but it wasn't. He jabbed at it with his hands, and Buttler did the rest. Second wicket for Chris Wokes.
Hello, Evil Scooters, who joins us. Evening all. You're in a different time zone. So far in this session, I've completed my taxes and arranged my American voting information for the upcoming election. What have I missed? Well, we'll tell you in a moment. I'm sure Knuckle will bring you up to speed with what you've missed in 1 second. And Nestle says, not sure what clients Oh no, sorry, that was an internal one. Beijing Ducks Cricket Club says, feeling like we had a series of one-night stands, then we ghosted you, just realising how much we've missed you and love the work that you do. Love from the Ducks. And that's collective love for the whole guerrilla cricket community. Thank you very much.
A hearty reciprocal quack to you in Beijing. Brings into the middle Pakistan's spin bowling all-rounder.
What's the matter, you? Show a little respect. The leg is spinning his harder, but he turns it off at the deck. Oh, he's not too bad. He's always got a plan. Shadab Khan.
Shadab Khan, perfectly capable of playing as a test number 7, has done so for Pakistan, but this is a tricky situation now. 176 for 5. Shadab has a flash at this outside off stump, or really a poke at this outside off stump. Beaten, there is no run.
It's a great jingle. Is that one of Mog's or one of Jeff's?
That's
Mog.
one of Mog's.
Sounds like a Mog. Thanks, Mog. Brilliant one.
Yeah, Shadab batted 7, in fact, in Malahide, that in that test match we covered and had such a good time covering. 2 slips and a gully. No change to the field, really. 2 slips in the gully, 3 men up on the offside, 2 men in the leg, and man back at long leg. Joe Root is going up for a huge appeal at first slip that no one else is interested in at all. It looked like Shadab missed that by a good few inches as it swung away past the outside edge. Joe Root, calm down, you excitable 29-year-old schoolboy.
He's missed this by miles.
I mean, he's not really. To be fair, he's missed that well. If that makes any sense, he's not followed it with his hands.
Chris Wokes, he missed it by a foot skip.
Yeah, really not sure what Root heard there. Luckily, he wasn't tempted into a stupid review. Short outside off stump, and that's crashed by Shadab Khan. But such has been the way for Pakistan this morning. Even the good shots are mostly going to field. Is fielded by Sibley at cover. There is no run.
Yeah, slightly too short that from Wokes. Needs to be fuller if he's going to induce the edge, you'd think. It looks a slightly more easy-paced pitch against the kind of back of length bowling. I think, obviously Archer's bowled some very good sharp bouncers, but I think pitching it up and moving it away is where you're going to see most problems caused.
It's always the way in Test cricket, isn't it? Top of off stump, move it a little bit, the odd short ball. It's easy in theory. Full delivery, and Shadab pushes up to broad at mid-off. There is no run.
John Howe's been in touch on hot mic, and one for the end of the over this. Can you explain how the Bob Willis Trophy works this year? We'll come on to that, because Knuckle and John, I know all about that.
Yeah, indeed. It's more simple than it looks. Last ball of the over from Chris Wokes. The successful over which has seen him remove Mohammad Rizwan goes wider in the crease, fires this into the pads of Shadab Khan. No chance of an LBW appeal, well outside leg stump on impact. And going further, Pakistan 176 for 5 after 71 overs. The Bob Willis Trophy, 3 regional groups of 6, north, central, south. Everyone plays everyone once, so some teams will be playing more away games than home. And the top 2 on points, as it were. So the top 2 point scorers across the 3 divisions go through to the Lord's final.
There you go.
They've obviously found a way in which they think it's going to work. I mean, I think the team that finishes top of a group and doesn't go through is going to be pretty unlucky. But look, I think they've done I think the ECB has done a great job in getting the Bob Willis Trophy arranged this year, just to get some county championship cricket happening.
Archer in, bowling over the wicket now to Shah Masood. Gets the ball to come in off the seam, I think, to the Pakistani opener, the redoubtable Pakistani opener, who blocks his 211th ball to mid-wicket off the closed bat face, and there is no run.
Just on that debate we were having, Jono, about shots, and Leah Wicket Witch says Cook for sure can't play all the shots. His last innings for Essex looked exactly like one of his test innings. Lock, cut, nurdle.
And the lead, of course, perhaps the most important shot for any test opener, particularly in England these days. Second ball of the over from Jofra Archer, who cleaned up Abid Ali with a beauty yesterday morning. That's well played by Shah Masood, waiting for that little bit of width and off the back foot, punching it in front of the man at cover. And they come through for 3 very good running between Shah Masood and Shadab Khan. Shah Masood prides himself on being one of the fittest members of the Pakistan team, and Shadab Khan is a young man. So the running was good. Shah moves to 70.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know whether I'm explaining myself correctly or not. I think with someone like Cook, who seems limited in the shots that will only choose to play the shots that he feels he's strongest at. But I still think that he has other shots in the locker, but it's just whether he decides to play them or not in fear of losing his wicket.
As Archer's in, third ball of the over, back over the wicket to bowling to Shadab Khan for the first time, who has a slash at this. He does like the cut shots, Shadab Khan, but that was too close to cut and kept a little bit low as well. Skids through to Butler, and there is no run.
Are you saying, Jono, that he should have played more shots?
No, because my argument is that I think they have more shots. Look, in a club game, you know, the Peterson Flamingo, I'm sure Alistair Cook can play it. He just chooses not to at the highest.
Yeah, so is that's good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Archer comes in again and beats Shadab on the outside edge again. This time Shadab playing a defensive stroke through a ball that wasn't going to hit the stumps, and when you're getting a batter to do that as a bowler, you know you're bowling well. A little bit of movement away from the right-hander this time. Scrambled seam and moved off the seam. That ability to bowl with the scrambled seam from Jofra Archer means that he doesn't know which way it's going to move, and the batter's got no clue, and at 87 miles an hour, good luck. Just hope you miss it, I guess. Much better over from Archer than his last. Yunus Khan continues to make many notes. Archer's in back of a length and hurries Shadab a little bit. He forces this off the back foot and then does a little sort of 6-yard oval as he sets off for a single, but then is sent back by Shan Masood. There is no run.
You see, Test cricket, as is any kind of top-level cricket, is about weight of runs, isn't it? And it certainly is a batter. So you are perhaps going to reduce the amount of shots that you're willing to play in any given situation because you want to score runs, therefore not get dropped and not give up your position.
In comes Archer, full delivery, kept out well by Shadab Khan, blocks up to mid-on, there is no run. Good over from Jofra Archer, despite the 3 conceded off the first ball. Shan Masood is on 70, Shadab Khan is yet to score. Pakistan after 72 overs, 179 for 5. We should plug the GPL. You've only got 13 minutes left to enter the GPL. Go to guerrillacricket.com/competition, follow the on-screen instructions and enter. What you're doing if you're entering, you are guessing the number of runs that will be scored in today's play. If you think Pakistan will speed up, or if you think that this will be a clatter of wickets and then England will be batting a little bit later, you can guess the number of runs that will be scored in the day's play. You have until lunchtime to do so, hence the 13-minute warning. You pay £1 per guess. You can have as many guesses as you like. All the pounds go in the pot, and if you are bang on with your prediction of how many runs will be scored today, you win the pot, which started this morning at £44. Not bad for a £1 stake. guerrillacricket.com/competition. You have 13 minutes.
Warning.
Evil Scooter says Butler takes a catch. Ed Smith kisses his Joss Butler undershirt in glee. I'll come back.
Still 2 slips in the gully and the 3 men up in the offside and the 2 men in the leg and 1 man back on the long leg boundary for Shan Masood as he's bowled to by Chris Wokes, still over the wicket. Little hint of gentle in swing, but Shan blocks this full delivery up to mid off and there is no run.
Steve Shipcott's been in touch to say, so I've got Mog to blame for the fact that I'm going to have Joe Dolce as my earworm for the rest of the day. Thanks a bunch, Mog.
Yes.
Shadab Khan is referring to the Shadab Khan jingle. Joe Dolce's top 10 hit, Jono?
Probably before my time.
Shut up in your face.
Shortish outside off stump. Shan trying to guide this through the point region, gets a little bit closed off and ends up punching it to cover. There is no run.
Never had another hit. One hit wonder. Shut up in your face. Hard one to follow.
Quite enjoyed your goading of Fred.
you got to take Fred dishes it out. It's always fun to put some in his direction. Yeah.
Thrown on the water, weren't there?
In comes Chris Wokes, right arm over the wicket and left alone by Shan Masood, angling across him. There is no run.
Fred's classic line yesterday was, I can't make head and tails over this toss issue. We were talking about the toss, and I thought that was one of wonderful unintended puns. He claims it was unintended.
What toss issue?
We were talking about percentages. Tony was leading us down a dangerous statistical path of making a point about teams that win the toss and insert the opposition. We were trying to get some stats on that.
Yeah.
And Fred said,
hello. Chris
looking
Wokes
at the
sorry, just to break it off, because Chris Wokes has dropped the ball in his run-up, and a dead ball has been called. A little bit of comedy relief. Sorry, go ahead.
I forgot what I was going to say now.
So this afternoon, talking of your commission checks, David.
Yes.
This afternoon, I'm off to do some filming with Toby Tarrant.
Oh yes.
Who is, and then we're going to send that footage to said Toby Radford.
Wee, Sean squared up by this one as he tries to work to leg off the thick outside edge. It races past Dom Bess at backward point, down to the third man boundary for 4. A rare shot that Sean Massoud hasn't been in control of today.
Yeah, absolutely. Throughout his entire innings, you'd say he's batting very nicely. And then I think we're going to do a feature piece in it later in the series.
Excellent.
Where Toby will analyse Toby.
Excellent, Toby to Toby. Yeah, anyone can do this. If you want to send us in a video of you batting in the nets, then we're going to we're going to have a batting booth with Toby Radford during the next test. Second test, and we can review your videos. Take a video of yourself in a net or in the garden, and we'll get Toby to look at that during one of the tea times. But Toby Tarrant is going to be the first guinea pig.
2 slips in the gully, but the deep square leg has come up to mid-wicket now. I think Chris Wokes is trying to keep Sean Massoud on strike so that Archer has a full over at Shadab, and he's beaten by this outside off stump. Perhaps looking for that single, a little bit squared up by that. Good bowling by Chris Wokes. There is no run.
I was looking at Toby Tarrant's averages this morning on Play Cricket, and I fear that Toby Radford's got probably a harder job on his hands than maybe he might have wanted. With a career average of just over 7. He's very much a bowler, but I think if Toby Radford can turn him into
in comes Wokes, last ball of the over. Will Sean Massoud be able to get that single to protect Shadab from the strike? No, he won't. He blocks it into the offside, and there is no run. 183 for 5, 73 overs gone. Archer will have a full over at Shadab.
Well, he did a good job with Jason Holder, got him up to 200 mark, so maybe he could take Toby in that direction as well.
With a career high score of 29 not out, if we can get Toby Tarrant to a 50 through his Toby Radford's analysis, I think that would be a huge result.
Absolutely.
More of that anon, more tweets.
The Beijing Ducks Cricket Club says ducks manipulate gorillas. Sounds like a classic album title. Yeah, progressive rock, perhaps. And Armchair Cricket Podcast says somehow one feels like this question we posed multiple times during this test. Beijing Ducks, I think I'm going to have to check which question you're referring to there. And Beijing Ducks, I'm going to come back to you in a
moment.
Hold
that thought. Archer in, starting this over to Shadab. Good full delivery. Well played by Shadab, trying to punch it down the ground. Doesn't get any power or timing on it, but got most of the full toe of the bat on it, up to mid-on. There is no run.
Do you feel that, guys, that the Archer full delivery is a much more dangerous ball rather than using him as the enforcer?
You mix it up a little bit. They make each other more effective in a sense. I mean, you can't bowl Yorkers all the time either, because that becomes predictable. But a lot of batters and analysts have said that this is another Yorker bowling to not at the tail ender but the lower order, and Shah Massoud is very quickly off the mark at the non-striker's end, calling Shadab through for the single. The throw came in at the striker's end, but Shan, I think, was in comfortably. Well dug out by Shadab to Shoreditch extra cover.
You like the
single.
You like the enforcer. I was trying to, as an experiment, trying to get Knackle to say I agree with the point you've made, Dave, because I've never managed to get Knackle.
I'm sure I must have done
point
that.
I've made.
It was actually to mid-wicket, in fact, that single went. And actually, had Ollie Pope hit the stumps, Shan might have been struggling. That was definitely Shan and Shadab agreeing that Shan should be facing Archer rather than Shadab.
Beijing Ducks says a batter doesn't play all the shots. It's like saying a bowler doesn't bowl every type of delivery. Both are still effective with a limited arsenal. Was that what you were looking to say, Jono, in 22 words?
No, well, I'm just in the process of replying to that.
It's risk-reward, isn't it? Because even if you're not as comfortable about certain shots against certain types of bowling or certain quality of bowling, you might put it away and think, right, I can score, I'm better off waiting for some other shot. It is the short ball to Shah Massoud. There's a very pat leg side field with a short leg, 3 men saving 1, quite close, almost catching on the leg side, and 2 men back on the hook, and Shadab has managed to Sean rather has managed to pit the gap by smashing it into the floor over Shortleg's head, and they come through for a single. The gap is always through the short fielder. Ollie Pope saw his life flash before his eyes. 1 run.
I'd say that as a youngster, when you're being coached to bat, you were often taught the fundamental shots of cricket. Now, with which there are many. Now, if, as Alistair Cook has chosen not to play all
in comes Archer, different approach to Shadab Khan. He's basically bowling bouncer Yorker with this old ball. Archer bounces to Shan Masood, Yorkers to Shadab Khan, and Shadab keeps this full delivery out up to broad. There is no run.
You adjust your game depending on what suits you. As a bowler, you don't learn to bowl leg spin, off spin, out swing, in swing. You very quickly.
No, not unless you're Gary Sobers or a lower level Sachin Tendulkar. 2 more balls in this. Archer over. There is the surprise, well, sort of surprise bouncer. It's too short though, and with the a predictable bounce in this Old Trafford wicket, Shadab is able to duck very comfortably. There is no run. I think if Archer's going to bowl short, he's got to bowl sort of back of a length and rising rather than proper bounces. I think on this
that's my
pitch.
point, Knack. I don't think he should be bowling short. I don't think he should be playing the enforcer role, because he's swinging it at pace, and that's how he takes his wickets in county cricket.
I would agree that England probably slightly overdo it, and perhaps Root isn't quite as imaginative with Archer as he needs to be. Last ball of the over as the sun peeks through the clouds. That's a full delivery outside off stump, well left by Shadab, watching it all the way through to Jos Buttler. Interesting over from Archer to Shan Masood and Shadab Khan. Pakistan 185 for 5.
Zahir from Jamaica has been in touch. Hi Zahir. But a very interesting question for you guys to think about. World cricket. Will Babar Azam replace Virat Kohli as the best batsman in world cricket across all formats by the end of this series? And he's got some stats to back that up. They're the only 2 batsmen to feature in the top 10 rankings of all 3 formats. And Babar is number 6 in the test matches at tests at the moment. Kohli second, of course. So do we see Babar ending this series, possibly going into the top 3 and even taking over?
He could do if he has a superb series. I think all formats, Kohli and Babar are right up there. De Villiers, if he ever comes back and plays Test cricket. In Test cricket, I think Steve Smith it's Steve Smith then daylight to that group of Babar and Kohli and Williamson, sort of Root in a pack below that.
I tell you, if De Villiers comes back and plays Test cricket, I'm going to start using Shane Warne after.
It would be pretty remarkable at this point. I don't think it's going to happen. England, I think, are trying to possibly sneak in 2 overs before lunch, because this man is coming on to bowl.
If the pitch isn't good for pace, get this lad on his bowling's ace. But if you need someone who bats, you should just save Dom Best for last.
Should have had Shan Masood out on 45 twice. One dropped catch and one missed stumping. On 75 now, Shan blocks back to the bowler. There is no run. There is a little bit of rough outside the left-handers off stump for Dominic Bess. We've got a slip. We've got a very short, silly mid-off in place. That's Stokes and Pope respectively. Squirts off the outside edge as Shan is squared up by this sort of delivery that just holds its line a little bit. To backward point it goes. There is no run. England will be trying to get through another this over very quickly and get one more before lunch. There's 2 minutes to go. Pakistan will be well advised to find some shoelaces that need tying. As Bess is in, right arm around the wicket, short and wide, and Shan Masood goes back and cuts this nicely. They might get 2, they will get 2. Dom Sibley has a long way to go from his position at cover, and they make 2. Shan moves to 77.
Knuckle, can I just... sorry, John, I was going to slip in a plug for tomorrow lunchtime, because Tony Bishop's going to be interviewing Ashley Gray, author of The Unforgiven, the story of West Indies cricketers who toured apartheid South Africa in the early 80s. Fantastic book. And the author of that book, Ashley Gray, Tony's tracked him down to Australia. He's going to be interviewing him tomorrow lunchtime. That's the Friday lunchtime feature.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. What are we doing for lunch today, by the way?
We're doing some Dick Weller.
Right, we're going back to our highlights. As Bess is in and strikes Shan Masood on the pad, a little bit quicker, a little bit shorter, too high for any thoughts of an LBW appeal, though. It hits Shan on the thigh, and there is no run. That just take a little bit out the top.
I didn't see, possibly.
As Bess is in, 2 balls left. Oh, that's a beauty from Dom Bess. Perfect off-spinner's delivery to the left-hander. A little bit of dip and drift with that cross breeze at the James Anderson end, and sharp turn and bounce, and Butler took that well. Pretty much similar to where he missed that stumping. Took it up at chest height. Sean beaten by that, and really there's nothing you can do as a batter sometimes. You just get beaten and hope you keep missing the edge. Last ball of this over from Dom Bess, left alone outside off stump, turns but from too wide. There is no run. It's just ticked over to 1 o'clock. I'm not sure we will get another over before lunch. Pakistan 187 for 5. Yes, that is lunch, and it's been England's session today. Pakistan shaded the first session yesterday. They comfortably won the second and third sessions yesterday, but England managing to keep Pakistan to only 48 runs and 3 wickets in this morning's session, with the princely Babar Azam, the very, very solid and effective Asad Shafiq, and Mohammad Rizwan, who's just making his way in the game, gone for a very nervy 9 caught behind of Chris Wokes. All the catches behind the wicket. Babar Azam caught by Root at second slip off Anderson for 69. Asad Shafiq caught by Stokes. Root at first slip. Stokes at second slip off Stuart Broad for not very many. Let's just have a look at exactly how many. Asad Shafiq fell for, bear with me 1 second, for 7 of 22 deliveries. That in a spell of 7 maidens in a row for England in the first hour. They were absolutely magnificent with the ball. James Anderson figures of 15 overs, 6 maidens, 1 for 44. Stuart Broad, 16 overs, 8 maidens, 1 for 28. Chris Wokes, 15 overs, 5 maidens, 2 for 28. Jofra Archer, 16 overs, 3 maidens, 1 for 39. Dom Bess, 10 overs, 1 maiden, none for 32, and Joe Root, 3 pointless overs. Yesterday, Pakistan lunch at 187 for 5, and having looked like they might be able to pull away from England this morning, Jono, England are probably sitting the prettier of the 2 teams.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd certainly say England's morning taking those 3 wickets. But yeah, I think that when you mentioned then, did Dom Bess just get one to go through the top a little bit? I think if that is proven to be the case, then England will be ruining the lost toss, shall we say. I think with those 2 real top class Pakistani leg spinners in the side, so it's about 4th on this wicket. If it is going to dry out and start to turn and bounce, then it could prove difficult for the England batsmen.
Indeed, and if Pakistan maybe don't need 400, they need just 300, 320. Should raise a glass or tip the hat to Shan Masood, who is still there, 75 overs into this innings. Obviously, this innings yesterday was cut short, but 77 not out of 225 balls. We understand he is the first Pakistani opener to face 200 balls in England since Syed Anwar back in 1996. So hugely impressive for Shan Masood, who was the bunny of all bunnies to James Anderson up until this point. So we'll get off air and we'll go to some old footage. Join us in half an hour or so for the second session.